This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting of the Harwich Conservation Commission for March 3rd, 2021. This meeting is being conducted by remote participation, and I'd like to start off by reading a statement from the Governor Baker's office regarding remote participating meetings. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Harwich Conservation Commission on March 3rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website at www.harwich-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so via recording on demand on the Harwich Channel 18 website or on our Town of Harwich YouTube page. So welcome. I hope everybody's doing well. We have a very busy agenda tonight, a good number of new hearings, and so I'm going to ask folks to be concise with their comments, both folks representing comments as well as commissioners, if we hope to get through this meeting before the wee hours. So let's begin. The first item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 179 Gorham Road, Map 24, Parcel R5. It's a proposal for a pool. We have a representative here tonight for the project.
Yes, my name is Steveccabe. How are you all?
Good evening.
So I have a large backyard and have contracted Easton Pools to install a small pool, a plunge pool it's called. It is 9 feet by 21 feet. It is going to be off the back left corner of my garage. And I had Dan Croto do all the engineering plans to make sure it's far enough away from my septic. And that's it. Simple request, if possible.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have any summary comments for us on this one?
Sure. The only resource area here is a floodplain. It is not in the buffer zone to any wetlands. And they have recently, Mr. McCabe has submitted a plan showing the proposed planting areas for his required 1-to-1 mitigation for structure in the flood zone. I am comfortable with working with Mr. McCabe and his landscaper to make sure that those plants are from our native Cape Cod planting list. And I think because this is floodplain and really there's no other performance standards, we need to see a more detailed planting plan, if you will. And I would recommend approval with a -2.
All right, thank you, Amy. Okay, I'll run through comments and questions that the commission may have, and I'm going to start as I see you on the screen, and I believe Stan is first.
I have no comments, but Brad, I don't know if it was just me, but I was having trouble hearing your phone.
All right, Stan, I'll try to speak up. I am using a different phone from what I've been used to. Is that any better right now?
Yeah, right now it's better, yeah. But I had no comments on this.
All right, thanks, Stan. Next is Mark. Any comments, Mark? Okay, I'm gonna move on to John.
Yeah, I have, excuse me, I have no comments.
All right, Jim.
No comments here.
All right, thank you. Carolyn.
No comments.
Okay, Ernie.
Yeah, no comments from me either, thank you.
All right, thanks. Well, in that case, I'd like to ask one of the commissioners to make a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the RDA for 170 Gorham Road.
Okay, could I have a second, please?
I'll second it with a -2 determination.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll vote with a roll call. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. And I'll start with you, Stan.
Aye.
Come on.
Okay, Mark. Yeah. Did you vote, Mark? I didn't hear. I'm not picking up Mark.
Aye, had a technical problem. All set. Thank you.
All right, I think I got an eye out of that. Okay.
How about now?
John,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
Ernie. All right, and Jim, I passed by you.
Aye.
All right, and myself, Brad Chase, aye, so the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Well, I really appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next on the agenda, we have a request for determination of applicability for 12 Northern Avenue, map 6, parcel E5-22. It's a proposal for a new foundation. Do we have a representative here tonight on the project?
Yes, Brad, Dean Croto from Moran Engineering. This is a house on the outer edge of the floodplain. I think it's half in the floodplain. There's a new buyer, and she is concerned with the existing foundation. It's just on blocks, which doesn't meet building code, of course. So she wants to put a new foundation under the house. She can't put a full basement because the floodplain requirements would say that it has to be at grade on one side. So it's a crawl space. It'll be at grade on the east side, and no change to the footprint. And that's about it. A safer structure for the owner and the neighbors. So we would leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Dan. Amy, do you have any summary comments for us?
Nope, I recommend approval with a -2 determination.
All right, thank you. All right, for comments and questions from the commissioners, I'll start with Stan.
No comments, Brad.
All right, Mark.
No remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jim.
No comments.
I passed by you, John, sorry.
No comments.
All right, thank you. We have a lot of people on the screen tonight. Carolyn.
No comments.
All right, Ernie.
I have no comments.
All right, and none for myself, so I'll ask for a motion from one of the commissioners.
I'll make a motion for the RDA, to approve the RDA for 12 Northern Ave with a -2 determination.
I'll
All right,
second.
can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay with a roll call, starting with Jim. Oh, excuse me, Stan.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Mark, I missed you, sorry.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Ernie.
Aye, I'm good.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. The motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a request for determination of applicability for 15 Happy Way, map 63, parcel A47. It's a proposal for a driveway, walkway, and entrance. We have a representative here tonight.
Me, Sharon Goheen, the landscape designer.
Hi, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. The owner is also here too. I see you on the phone.
We're getting a little bit of feedback, Shannon, if their owner's next to you, if either if the owner could mute their phone.
Is that better? We just unplugged the fish tank. That help? Hello?
Still getting feedback. It's like we can hear ourselves after we talk.
I don't know what's wrong. The owner's not with me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. What can I do?
Hang on, I'm getting a message from our tech support. Turn your speakers down a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No problem. We just want to be able to hear you, okay? That's all.
Better? Is that better? Is this better?
Seems a little better. I just unplugged my fish tank. I don't know if that was the problem. I hope the fish were okay.
They'll manage. What do we think? Should I proceed or what?
I think, yeah, go ahead and see if we can make you out.
Okay. The existing landscape that is just above the wetlands is bare and scruffy, and there aren't very many interesting, actually there's no shrubs or interesting trees. So we plan to give the ground a protective covering of clover and plant native shrubs, a tree, and native grasses, and get rid of the old dog fence that encircles much of the property. Are you hearing me? Okay. The only official way into the house is from the lower driveway. It's up an old sloping flight of railroad tie stairs. And once you get to the top of that, more stairs up to the deck and then into the house. The other way into the house is by pulling into the front yard between the trees, parking on top of the leach field, and then walking over bumpy ground to the front stoop and into the house. I propose to remove one oak tree in the front yard to make space for a small half-circle driveway and a walkway and a new stoop into the house. Also, I propose to add a very small section of new deck to make it easier to access the existing deck from both the back stairs of the house and the front of the house.
Okay, thank you. Amy, do you have any summary comments for us on this one?
We have a bordering vegetated wetland whose water level fluctuates quite rapidly over the years. I'm going to mute you, Shannon, just while I speak and some reverb. Okay. So the proposed, and I should mention that the plan that was used was an older plan to sketch this off of. Because the proposed structures were, well outside of the 50, and its driveway and front walkway and a lot of mitigation proposed, I didn't see the need to further update the plan with a new survey. So the proposed driveway and front walkway in the 50 to 100 is an additional 143 square feet compared to what's there. Mitigation required is 286. And the area to be planted, which is a lot of, as Shannon mentioned, there's really no understory to speak of here or herbaceous layer. So the area to be planted with natives is over 1,500 square feet, as well as the picket fence to be removed. I think overall that this is an improvement, and I would recommend approval with a -3.
All right, thank you, Amy. Let's go through comments and questions from the commissioners, and I'll start with Stan.
I don't have any comments, Brooke.
All right, thanks, Stan. Mark?
No remarks, thank you.
Okay, moving on to John.
No comments.
All right, Jim?
Yeah, I'm okay with this one. Looks like somewhat of an improvement overall.
Thanks, Carolyn.
No comments.
Okay, Ernie?
I'm good, no comments.
All right, and I also have no comment. I'll ask for a motion from one of the commissioners.
I'll move to approve the RDA for 15 Happy Way with a -3 determination.
I'll second it. Stan.
All right, thanks, Stan. And I was neglected not asking if there are any comments from the audience on this one. So if there are, please go ahead under discussion. Any comments from members of the audience? All right, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Ernie.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. Okay. Moving on to a request, an amended order of condition for 12 Old Campground Road, map 30, parcel C11. And it's a request related to the construction of a single-family dwelling with associated improvements. We have a representative here on the project.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, John O'Reilly, project engineer working with the Gamellas.
Good evening, thank you.
Good evening. As my cover letter outlined, we were here back in the spring of 2020, seeking and obtaining an order of conditions for a duplex for the Davenport companies. That project did not go forward, and we are now back in front of you with a proposed construction of a single-family home. It's proposed to be 4 bedrooms. So we have we position the house so as to keep the house to the south of the lot as best possible, which leads to a building setback, closest setback to the bulkhead to the vegetated wetland, 85 feet, with a limit of work at 70 feet. The differences between the plan previously approved and this one in front of you is certainly, it's not a duplex, it's a single family home. Our sewage flow is cut in half. We have relocated the mitigation that the commission had approved previously. The number previously approved was 870 square feet, I believe. And we are currently proposing over 1,000 square feet of mitigation, and we're attacking the old vehicle tracks which cross the property. Happy to answer any questions the board has, and we're hoping to get an amended order of conditions from you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have any comments for us?
Sure. First, if you haven't muted yourself, please do. I'm getting some more feedback. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I can't see where that feedback is coming from.
Might be call. Yeah, Carl 6 just was muted. That was it.
Okay, thanks. For some reason, I can't get my buttons on the bottom of the screen to not be on top of those collars, so I can't see who's muted. Anyway, so this proposed project, as John stated, is for a single family home instead of a 8-bedroom duplex. It's 4-bedroom single family home. The majority of it outside the 100-foot buffer zone. The previous plan did have it completely outside the 100-foot buffer zone. But still, it is 85 feet from the wetland. Our requirement is at least 60 feet from the wetland. Instead of boulders and plantings to demarcate the no disturb zone, they would like to use a split rail fence, which I am personally okay with. They are proposing to plant the vehicle tracks with native species such as Harwich blueberry, mountain laurel, and sweet pepper bush. New hardscape in the 50 to 100 is 275 square feet as proposed. They're offering 1,170 square feet of mitigation, which is the revegetation of the vehicle tracks. And they're going to do a native grass seed mix with clover for any of the small lawn area within the limit of work in the 100-foot buffer. If possible, if for additional mitigation, I would really like for some of the canopy trees on the north side of the property to be saved if possible, even if they're outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Something we could discuss when we are on site, but as long as they're not in the way of the roof line of the home and not a hazard, I think it would be really good to try to save some of the native vegetation that is outside the 100-foot buffer. And I would recommend approval of the amended order with our conditions of no fertilizers or chemicals, and allowing the fence to be split rail instead of boulders or rocks, but it cannot be a stockade fence.
All right, thank you, Amy. And for clarification, with that fence, is it proposed for the 50 line, or we pull back a little bit? Where is that fence proposed for?
70 feet at the closest.
Yeah, the closest it is 70 feet.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thanks, Amy. All right, let's run through questions and comments. Can you understand?
I have nothing other than, I agree with Amy's comments.
All right. All right. Mark, did you have any comments? I didn't.
No remarks.
Okay.
I lost.
All right, thanks. John?
So my question about this plan was why they cited the septic system on the south side rather than the north side of the house, and if so, if it were on the other side of the house, looks to me like the house could have been moved more or entirely out of the 100.
John,
so
you want to go
ahead? Comment.
Okay, John, did you want to address that comment?
Yes, what we in talking with the Gamellas, we talked about the placement being central to the lot. They actually wanted it further north than what I am currently showing. And so what we ended up doing was holding a 20-foot, the 20-foot minimum setback to the south side of the building, where our leaching facility is located, which dictated where the north side of the building ended up being. The idea of the deck on towards the south side, the living area on the south side, we would like the opportunity to utilize that area to the south of the building for outdoor living space. It's outside the jurisdiction of the conservation. So, you know, that's kind of why they wanted to even have more room than I'm currently showing on the south side of the building. With regards to the mitigation, I mean, we are offering the over 1,000 square feet of improved mitigation plantings, and we're actually only representing 275 square feet of hardscape and building within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Thank you, John. John Ketchum, any follow-ups on that?
Not really, no. Thank you.
All right. Jim, any comments?
Yeah, I think that all in all, this is a pretty good plan, keeping the house nearly entirely out of the 100-foot. I would note that we usually require mitigation on disturbance, on not just hardscape. But that said, I mean, the house, there's very little disturbance in relation to the overall lot. So I think it's a pretty good plan. And I think the split rail fence is fine. I would definitely like to see something there to delineate that and to help prevent further encroachment into the buffer zone. So those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Carolyn?
No, I have no comments.
All right, let's see. Ernie?
Yeah, just to follow up on Jim's comments. So the coverage notes on the plan say the area disturbance is 1,850 square feet. But the mitigation is only 1,170. So it appears you're 680 square feet less mitigation than the actual disturbance that's taking place on the lot, John.
You're still muted, John.
Sorry about that. You're correct. That's what the calculations reflect. It's the same type of ratio of disturbance that we had for the previous application. If you go back and look at that, we weren't mitigating anywhere close to what the larger site was causing. And we did bump we did go up from the 800 that was originally approved to over 1,100, close to 1,200 square feet of mitigation, to offset the fact that we now have the disturb zone in the buffer, but now the hardscape, the dwelling in the deck. So we added some additional square footage of that just to be comparable to the previously approved plan.
Okay, I guess I don't understand that. So it still doesn't meet the 1-to-1 requirement that we've got, right?
It does not.
All right. Is there any way you could either reduce the area of disturbance or increase the mitigation? I don't know if you could increase the mitigation because there's really nothing else on that lot. It's all virgin.
That's correct. It seems to be my mode of operation dealing with vacant lots that have no offering of mitigation to you folks. So, we could tighten up the limit of work line. I did keep it 25 feet off the building, so we have a gentle slope down to the limit of work line and where the fence is. Not without doing what Mr. Ketchum had referred to as flipping everything, could we drastically reduce the disturbance in the lot within the buffer zone?
Yeah. And you say the last time we approved the prior plans for the Davenport company on this lot, they had similar calculations? Yeah,
I didn't bring that file back to home with me tonight, but my memory tells me that we were exceeding the disturbance on the site. We weren't meeting your 1-to-1 mitigation at that point, and we had quite a bit of discussion on replanting the slope with native vegetation and the boulders along the back of the wall back of the house to protect the area. We just opted to forego the sloped planting and just add the additional planting to the vehicle tracks.
So could you do some more slope planting back there?
If the commission wants me to, I can, if you're not going to approve the project as it's presented, I'm sure we could do something.
All right. All right, those are my comments for now.
All right, thanks, Ernie. Let me ask Amy on this item. What do you think, Amy? Is that a viable option to try to bring that 1-to-1 mitigation up by slope plantings?
I think potentially if they were to do either move the fence up closer to the house a little bit, or do a row of native plantings in front of, or I think you could get to your 1-to-1 without hopefully too much hassle.
Okay, well, let's see what other folks have to say.
I'm not the engineer, so.
Yeah, that actually covers it. All right, is anyone opposed to that concept of having Amy work directly with the applicant to try to bring up that 1-to-1 with a row of plantings associated with the fence? All right, hearing none. John, do you think that's a viable option?
Is that to me, Chair? John O'Reilly?
Yes. Yes, John O'Reilly.
Well, obviously, if the commission feels we need to add some additional plantings, you know, and we get an amended order of conditions, we'd be happy to work with Amy.
Okay, I think that's a good way to, good approach. All right, I'll ask if there's any comments from members of the audience. All right, hearing that, any additional comments from commissioners?
Just to clarify, is that row of plants going on the landward side of the fence, the side towards the house?
My thought would be is that either the fence moves landward up a little bit more so that your disturbance amount goes down, or that some native shrub plantings go on the inside of the fence just to add a little bit more biodiversity.
Okay, yeah, I think either of those things would be fine with me.
I think Jim just answered that question. I think you'll probably see a combination of both, a reduction of slope, moving of the fence to reduce the amount of disturbed area, and then supplement that area with a row of plantings. And I would envision, I agree, I think it makes sense to put it on the house side of the fence and not vice versa.
All right, seems like a good solution. So with no further comments, I'll ask for a motion from one of the commissioners.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for an amended order of conditions for 12 Old Campground Road.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Oh,
All right, seconded by Ernie.
do these new owners realize that by agreeing to all of this, they have no herbicides, pesticides, et cetera?
You're still muted, John O'Reilly.
I'm sorry. They have been told of your policies.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, so it's not a surprise.
Okay, anything else on the discussion?
I think we just need to make sure that what is included in the motion is that the amended order of conditions includes the discussed movement of the fence and or addition of plantings on the house side of the fence.
Okay, is that acceptable, Carolyn?
Yes?
Okay. All right, so we have a second from Ernie, and all those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay, starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Ernie? Okay, you say aye, Ernie, and myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you very much. Okay, next we have our notice of intents tonight, and we have quite a few. The first one is for 12 Bellbrook Lane, map 23, parcel X-A, a proposal for a new dwelling. It's a continuance. Do we have a representative here tonight?
Yes, David Clark here from Clark Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Good evening.
Okay, great. The last time we were here, the commission asked if there was any way to move the house back to get some of it out of the 50 to 100 from the abandoned cranberry bog to the west. So we took a look at the plan and we did two things. One is that we did move it back a couple of feet, and the owner, the applicant, also made the dwelling smaller. He took 2 feet out of the connector between the dwelling and the garage, but he also reduced the length of the building. So what that did for us is we reduced the coverage within the 50 to 100 from 636 square feet down to 345 square feet. The other thing we did was also removed the back door on the garage, and that eliminated the walkway coming from the back door of the garage out to the driveway. In moving the house to the north, we were able to get the entire driveway out of the 100-foot buffer to the cranberry bog. And also, the other thing the commission asked for was that we take a look at the work limit again. And what we did there was we tightened it up considerably on the southwest corner of the garage. So there'd be no confusion amongst the contractors on the site that entire area is to be preserved and not disturbed during construction. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have summary comments for us?
Well, thank you for going back and addressing and some of the comments and questions that the commission had. I think you minimized the project. I do appreciate that outside the limit of work is to not be touched. Either, I would suggest either a living fence or a split rail or something along it. And again, to kind of help remind people that that area should be natural, and over time that there's not encroachment kind of creeping into that area. This is within the 100-foot buffer to a recently retired cranberry bog. There's a bog road in between it and, or between the wetland and the home. And I would recommend approval of this project with our typical conditions of no fertilizer or chemical application within the buffer or floodplain, and any lawn area within our jurisdiction be a native grass mix.
All right, thank you, Amy. All right, let's hear from commissioners for comments and questions, starting with Stan.
I think they did a real good job trying to improve the plan from, you know, and do the things we had asked. So I have no further comments.
All right, thanks. Mark?
No remarks, thank you.
John?
No comments, looks like good improvements to me.
Jim?
No, it looks good. I appreciate the revisions. To Amy's point, would the installation of a split rail fence along the limit of work in the buffer zone be something the applicant would be willing to consider?
The applicant is willing to consider some type of demarcation for the naturalized area, but he's having thoughts about having a fence there. He really wants that whole area of the yard to be naturalized, but he thinks he's not sure about the fence. But so is that something he could work out with Amy, with the understanding that something has to be put there that's durable and obvious enough that any landscape contractor would know not to go past that line.
You could condition the language that it, you know, split rail or planting, you know, living fence or boulders, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, I think he would probably prefer a living fence than a split rail. So I would just hope that it's something he could work out with Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think any of those options would be fine. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jim. Carolyn?
No comments.
Okay, Ernie?
No comments.
All right, thank you. And all I have is just on Jim's comments. I think that's a good idea. And just, you know, Amy can work with the owner to come up with a living fence, and it would be preferable to have, you know, dense native plantings if possible. So standard stuff. Okay, any comments from members of the audience? All right, hearing none. Would one of the commissioners like to make a motion on this notice of intent?
I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent for 12 Bellbrook Lane.
I'll
All
second
right,
that.
with the mentioned conditions that Amy put forward.
Right, yes. Thank you.
All right, can we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second.
All right, any additional discussion? All right, I'll vote. All those in favor say aye, those opposed say nay, starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Ernie? Okay, that was, I think that was positive. And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You all have a good night.
Okay, same to you. All right, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 35 Strandway, map 1, parcel J1-32, proposal for a new terrace. Do we have a representative here? Okay, good.
I'm preparing to, excuse me, let me start again. I'm proposing a fire pit terrace that is accessible from the ocean-facing porch. The clients want to preserve their existing open yard for the grandchildren. They have the remains of a poorly done patio that they would like to have redone. And I would like to square it off for easier access, which adds a little to the 50 to 100 zone. It made sense to me to tuck the fire pit terrace alongside the house where it could maximize a now unused space and take up the least amount of room. A portion of it is within the 50-foot buffer zone, as noted on the plan. There's also an existing brick walk in the 50-foot zone that the client would like removed, and we will grass over the 88 square feet that the walk covers now. The calculations for the mitigation are on the plan.
Okay, thank you. Amy, do you have some summary thoughts on this one?
Sure. So overall, there's a net increase in the 0 to 50 and 50 to 100 foot buffer zones. Though they are, and I just noted this earlier, and I apologize for that. On the site, we saw that 88 square feet of the brick walkway, which is in the 0 to 50, is coming out, which is great, but there is a net increase in structure in the 0 to 50 foot buffer, which I'm not, even though they have offered mitigation, I'm not sure. I have to do my calculations and see if it meets our required 3 to 1 for in the 0 to 50, and then the 2 to 1 in the 50 to 100. But potentially the project could have some net benefits. Our condition of no chemical application, for including fertilizers and organic fertilizers as well, could be a really big improvement on this property. I would suggest instead of the potentilla along the front or along the existing beach grasses, that it be more Virginia or Carolina rose, not the rugosa rose that's there. So I would, I just need a second to just double check the calculations on the mitigation. And I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thanks, Amy. You can chime in whenever you figure that out. And we'll start with comments with Stan.
Amy, I'm looking at your notes. Is there a DEP file number at this point?
No, we do not have one yet, so we can't close this project tonight anyways.
Right. yeah, I'm not happy with things going into the 0 to 50. I don't really see the need for that there. Even with the steps off the side, I mean, it's right around the corner from that porch that's there now. So again, from my perspective, I'm not in favor of disturbing the 0 to 50. And again, that's what we've been trying to enforce right along. And I don't see any real hardship by not allowing that.
All right, thanks, Dan. Mark?
I have no remarks at the moment, thank you.
Okay, John?
Yeah, so I don't see where on the plan there's any indication of a fire pit, which you mentioned. So that's one question. Where is this fire pit? I pretty much agree with what Stan was saying, but I just want to ask, you've marked off existing beech roses, which is not all that's in there. There's bittersweet and other invasives mixed in with beech roses, I believe. But the plantings you are proposing do not reduce the area that is planted with beech roses right now. Is that correct?
That's true, but I didn't realize that was my goal. I thought you wanted me to take away from the lawn area and plant that.
Yeah, this is just a question for clarification. That's all. I'm just trying to understand. It wasn't a suggestion.
And so the fire pit that you asked about is in the center of the area that's marked proposed terrace.
Oh, okay.
It's between the two porches.
So it's in the middle of that deck.
Yes.
I see. And just another note is in the dune below the coastal bank there are a lot of invasives planted there. And if I would like to see something done about that. If we end up approving this project in any form, I think that some way of addressing those invasives down below would be desirable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Jim?
So I think on a undeveloped lot like this with lawn area, it really is a case where mitigation can outweigh the disturbance, even in the 0 to 50. The mitigation plan is presented. I can let Amy weigh in on this, but it doesn't really seem like it's something that's going to get naturalized properly. It's really laid out as an ornamental plan, even though some of the species are appropriate. But if that mitigation could be a more diverse plan with mixing of plants that would obviously be naturalized, and maybe in combination with addressing some of those invasives, I could be in favor of this project. That's all.
All right, thanks, Jim. Carolyn?
I have no, the only comment is a question. The fire pit is supposed to go on the new proposed terrace, pretty much on the 50-foot line.
No, it would be just between the 50 and the 100 foot. It wouldn't actually be on that one. Or it might be right on the edge, but it wouldn't be going over the front of it.
It wouldn't be, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
It's a table. I'm proposing the fire table, but I suppose it could be round if it needed to fit better. But it's just, it's like 3 feet long and it's centered in the middle of this.
So it would be hitting the 50-foot line probably. And that's my only question.
Perhaps the other edge would.
I couldn't understand what you said there.
Sorry. Perhaps the outer edge of the table might.
Yeah. But it is a developed piece of property anyway, so. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ernie.
Yeah, First comment, and this is just sort of an aside, when I went over the calculations that you have here, I came up with a required mitigation planning of 519 square feet versus the 701 that you have. I think the error in the calculations that you have is that the 88 feet that was being reclaimed by removing the brick walk, you were taking that off of the total of the 783 basically, whereas I would have taken that 88 directly off the 125 and then multiplied the difference, which was only 37 square feet, by 3, which was the mitigation factor we have. So that would have left the 111, add in the 408, and it comes out to 519. Put all that aside. I'm on the fence with this. Here's what Stan's saying as far as structures in the 50. But yet I'm also swayed a bit by Jim's comment that this is already such a highly developed lot that any further development in here is, it's almost a moot point. So I think the key is providing us with as much mitigation as possible. What you've proposed is good. I would be a strong advocate of removing the invasives that are already down on the top of the coastal bank beyond the existing beach roses that are there. The other thing I thought that you could potentially do is also develop the east corner of the property similar to what you've done on the west corner of the front of the property as well, just to really sort of round it out and try to build as much naturalization back into this lot as is possible. And I think in that I'd be pretty much in favor of what's being proposed here. That's all.
All right, thanks, Ernie. And I guess my comments are probably a hybrid of Stan's and what we just heard. I do think that we should not be allowing new structures in the 0 to 50, but I do think it's reasonable to have mitigation plantings for the alterations in the 50 to 100. But I really don't favor typically mitigation in the form of invasive plant removal. I think this is often something that the property owner would want to do anyways. And so in this case, I guess I disagree a little bit. I would just want to see more lawn taken out as opposed to the invasive plants. So that's my thought. Any additional comments from any of the commissioners? We are going to have to continue
Mr.
this.
Chairman, may I?
Yes. Yes.
So I believe, I mean, there's actually none of the proposed mitigation by Shannon was to remove the invasives. I think it was just suggested as an additional piece of mitigation, or just a good thing to do for the property. And then I found the same numbers as Ernie, and I just remind the commission that it's the minimum of a 3 to 1, or 2 to 1 and 3 to 1 respectively. So the commission can require a little bit more, which sounds like you might be going in that direction, that the benefit might outweigh the negative impact of any structure here. And then I would echo what Jim said about a little bit more of species diversity in the planting areas, so that they're not planting beds and that they are just allowed to naturalize over time. And since we do have to continue, I'm more than happy to, talk to Shannon about these things as well.
All right, Amy, that sounds good. Any comments from members of the audience? Okay, well, what I'm hearing is two approaches. There is some lack of support for having that structure extended to 050. I think that needs to be considered. Maybe, you can consider the two approaches of having the structure pulled back or having the additional planting mitigation as Amy just described, and maybe bounce those ideas off the property owners. Does that sound reasonable? Okay. When would you like to continue to? The next meeting or thereafter?
As soon as possible.
All right, so is it the 17th, Amy?
Next meeting is the 17th, and we would need revisions a week from today in order to get it
Okay.
in the packet, so, okay.
Thank you.
All right, then. I'm going to move that we continue the hearing for 35 Strandway, map 1, parcel J1-32 until March 17th, 2021. Could I have
I
a second,
second it.
please?
I second it, Brad.
All right, seconded by Stan. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Ernie.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll see you on the 17th. Next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for map 6, parcel G3-8. It's a proposal to remove the existing house, decks, and septic, and construct a new house with patio, landscaping, and septic system. Is this yours, Dan?
Yes. Yep. And hi, Dan Crodel from Moran Engineering. I'm here, Teresa Sprague is here too, and the owners, Joe and Kathy Reese, are here. So this is a 1950s house that the Reeses own, and they're looking at putting up a new house. So the plans showing the existing situation, the existing house. There's a deck that goes fairly close to the wetland resource. The wetland resource being top of coastal bank, which is a reinforced rock wall. And then there's a deck on the east that goes. It's not old. You can't see it that clearly on my existing conditions plan, but the whole west side is deck right up to the lot line. And then on the right of the plan is the proposed overlaying on that, and we maintain the coverages within the, not to go over the coverages within the 50 to 100 of structure. Teresa's company drew up a landscape plan, which consists of the buffer of plants, getting rid of lawn and buffer of plants along the coastal bank, and replacing the grass with a conservation grass. She'll go into that. The one thing the Reeses would like is in the remaining grass to maintain the irrigation that they have, because they have kids using the lawn, and to try to keep it healthy so it doesn't get ripped up and create erosion. But they can go into that if they would like. Other than that, it's a house tear down, house rebuild. This project, because it's on such a small lot that was laid out way back, before zoning. This will go to zoning board of appeals because it's impossible to meet the current zoning setbacks. And it needs to go to board of health also. Either way, even if they replace the septic for the current septic for the existing house or the new house. In discussions with the health department, it sounds like they're going to recommend that it get a nitrogen treatment unit in the septic tank to help produce nitrogen. So I think between that and the reduction of lawn and the change in species of lawn, this should be help nitrogen wise. I will ask Teresa to go into her landscaping plan, which was also submitted to the commission.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening, Teresa Sprague with Blue Flex Design. I do want to point out that the project is actually an overall reduction in coverage on the lot. So you can see on Dan's proposed plan, the total coverage existing is 3,076 square feet and proposed is 2,689 square feet. So with the new regulations, while there would technically be no mitigation required, we are still proposing to remove approximately 450 square feet of lawn at the top of the coastal bank, as well as an existing stand of rugosa rose that's just to the west of the existing deck, and to create a vegetated buffer at the top of the wall with a native Rus aromatica, which I think is an appropriate species for the size of the lot. The positive part of this is that the deck that's currently extending toward the wall, and the water is being removed and the patio is being pulled back. So we're keeping the structure further away from the top of the bank than what's currently existing, and removing that area of existing lawn and replanting it to provide some infiltration before we reach the wall. Of course, this is a situation where, unlike a typical coastal bank, this is an armored bank with a seawall. There are some invasive species at the base of the wall in the dune system, which is off property. So we are not proposing to do anything with that area because it's off property. So we're proposing all of the mitigation on property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about what we're proposing for planting and mitigation.
All right, thank you both. Amy, do you have some summary comments for us on this one?
Sure. So overall, there is a reduction in hardscape of 358 square feet. However, most of that is, decks, patios, reduction in those types of things. There is a house increase in the 0 to 50 and the 50 to 100. But again, the landscape amenities are where you're seeing the reduction. I do believe, however, that again, this is a very developed property, that by adding some plantings, reducing the lawn, making the lawn a native grass mix, and I personally don't have an issue with you keeping irrigation there as long as it's not fertilization, including organic or any other chemical application. I think in this location it's so dry, windy, sunny that you need some water. Otherwise you'll have a dust bowl. So I do think the planting could be a little bit more diverse. I know it's a very small amount of planting. I'm thinking that maybe on either east and west sides, instead of the fragrant sumac, either a couple of bayberry or beach plum. It would not be in the view for the applicant if they were on the ends, essentially. And that would just add a little bit more species diversity. So overall, the structure itself, when I mean structure, I mean house and decks and patios, is a little farther away overall from what's existing now. And I do see that this project will have a benefit. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Amy. Let's start with comments from Stan.
Yeah, I have one question. The patio, what's the material on the patio, the proposed patio?
Teresa, did you have an answer to that? That's on the proposed patio, or was that was the landscape, that was the architect who drew the patio. So I don't think we got
patio. We would recommend a permeable patio surface.
some blocks in stone and on sand, I guess.
Dry laid, exactly, dry laid patio.
We can certainly deal with that as a condition that it is completely pervious.
Yeah, because one of the concerns I have with is, the 0 to 50, we're saying a net 2 square feet, but a lot of that, which is a house, is 255, which is a building in place of deck and that patio that's there now, which is basically pervious. So to me, that's a
gray area, but that was the main reason that we knew the commission would want or require mitigation in a situation where there wasn't an increase. But yeah, But
again, just like
pervious deck to a pervious patio seems to certainly make sense. And then
But
pulling
again,
that deck away.
I'm focusing more on the house. So to me, we're adding more into the. That's all I have right now.
All right, thanks, Stan. Mark?
No remarks.
Okay. John?
No comments.
All right, Jim?
Yeah, I understand Stan's comments about, it really is more house in the 0 to 50, which is somehow different than patio. So I think that needs to be taken into account. I think maybe it's possible to mitigate for that, but I would, if that's the case, I'd like to see a strong mitigation plan that's more natural, rather than just the one species that's proposed.
And I think also, excuse me, Jim, I think also removing turning it into a conservation grass should probably be taken into consideration too. That seems, that's a lot of the areas changing from what probably is fertilized to non-fertilized. And then on top of that, as part of, again, going to the Board of Health, they're probably, we've had every indication they're going to require nitrogen treatment because of the change in house, alteration to a house.
Yeah, I agree. Both of those things are benefits. Yeah, particularly the nitrogen removal, which I would hope that they would insist upon that. That's my comment.
All right, thanks, Jim. Carolyn?
Well, first of all, I don't consider changing the lawn as part of mitigation. We would not require you to rip up this lawn. We're just saying no herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers. And if you don't like what it looks like without those, then it's up to the homeowner to decide to change the substance of the grass. So I don't count that at all as mitigation. I have a question on the stepping stones in the grass. Are those included in the hardscape numbers?
Those were not included. So generally stepping stone, maybe that's more of a zoning thing, but it's just a stepping stone sitting in grass is not included. If it was to be included, that would be, say, 30 inches by 65, 70 feet there, which is approximately 175 feet if you were to count each, the surface of the stone. I think that would still keep us.
Stepping stones, you can have stepping stones that are 18 inches apart within a normal stride. The way it's drawn out here, it looks like a path to me. The way it's on this, the way it's drawn out here, I would like those numbers included in the hardscape. My other comment though, and I would defer to Mark, what is a permeable patio? If we say bluestone on stone dust, does that stay permeable? Or do we, to get a permeable patio, do we need grass in between the stones?
If I could, we could certainly provide a detail for you on that. Bluestone would, or stone dust would not be considered permeable.
No.
But we could, exactly. So, but we could certainly provide a construction detail for you so you can see exactly how a permeable patio would be constructed. So it's gravel and sand base. So it allows infiltration through the joints.
And Mark, does that remain permeable over a 15-year span?
As long as the base underneath will accept the water, she's correct.
And how deep does the base underneath have to be?
Depend on the material underneath, but customarily it's going to be anywhere from 6 to 12 inches.
Is it prudent for us to require something like that on a permeable patio in this situation?
I would expect in the design that the detail would be there.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Ernie?
A couple of comments. So I am not in favor of moving the house closer to the coastal bank than it is presently. I think you're replacing permeable deck with a hard structure. So I would be opposed to that. As part of the mitigation, I noticed the area that's presently covered with Ragusa rosa is not lawn, but you're just proposing to plant that area. I think there's a big difference between having an area that is already not lawn, and I wouldn't necessarily consider that the mitigation. Let me see. Oh, what is the size of the footprint of the house? Do you know, Dan? Total footprint size?
Building coverage 1587, but that includes the shed, so it's probably about 1500, right? Would be anything under a roof with the bulkhead.
That's existing?
Oh, the existing. If you look at the zoning compliance, existing is 1287. It's going to 1587, and that would include the shed also.
All right. And how much of that is closer to on the front? I assume the front of the house, on the beach side of the house. How much is the expansion that you're proposing?
Let's see, house and shed within the 50 to 100 of the wetland went from 372 to 417. And, but strictly going by the regulations, it's structured, but we knew this was an issue of house in place of deck, so that's why we added we're calling it mitigation, but they're actually going by the regs. There was not a requirement for the mitigation, so we knew this was a bit of a gray area, so we went ahead and are improving stuff. I think that the Rosa Rugosa stuff was something that Teresa wanted to improve, and again, we weren't trying to meet any type of mitigation numbers. We were just trying to improve the site, and I think she had to talk the owners into removing that Rosa Rugosa.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So those are my comments. Again, I'm not in favor of moving the house closer to the resource area. And the final thing, as far as irrigation, I'm not in favor of irrigation. I think it just promotes the use of fertilizer in the long term. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Ernie. And I think I'll echo the sentiment of Ernie and Jim and Stan that, the property certainly can be rebuilt in the existing footprint, but to allow the house to move closer to the resource area is something that, we typically don't allow. So I don't think I would support that either. And maybe there's some mitigation that would just make it really hard to not consider that, but as it stands, I wouldn't support having the house closer. To follow up on Ernie's comment, I think that if there is existing irrigation in a house like this, that I think it's reasonable to allow them to keep it myself. So as long as there's no chemical applications. So it looks like we're heading towards a continuance. We also want to hear from planning whether the enhanced septic system is actually imposed and required. Right now, it seems to be a concept.
We can't, excuse me, Chairman, we can't even go to the Board of Health until we go through conservation by the health regulations. So we're stuck. The health director certainly was going to recommend that the nitrogen treatment be added, and that was our plan to design from the beginning with the addition of the nitrogen treatment. It's something new to Harwich. Harwich used to have a prohibition on the nitrogen treatment units, but now for the IA units, I should say. But now they're with the new group there. They're starting to want them more.
Okay. Well, it seems like there's some options on the table. Would you like to consider those and come back before us on the 17th or soon after?
Mr. Chairman, this is Joe Reese. May I make a comment?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt at the inappropriate time, but thank you and thanks to the commissioners and Administrator Yasowski. We appreciate your time tonight and certainly appreciate what you do for the people in Harwich. I won't reiterate everything that was said. I'm just going to be a minute here. I know how busy an agenda you have. Teresa and Dan represented us, I think, very well in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. I would just add that our desire is to put up a Cape Cod style home that certainly enhances our enjoyment, but that's good for the neighborhood and good for Harwichport. We have a very small lot, so that makes things very difficult. Our building coverage, as it's designed now, still stays under the 30%. We don't have any ability to move anything north or west or east, given the lot lines, as I understand it. We gave up a lot of deck, which we didn't want to do, quite honestly. And that deck went pretty close to the top of the wall, and we pushed that way back, and we will do a much smaller patio, and we'll deal with whatever materials we need to get approval. We haven't picked a material yet. We knew we'd have to do it where it's permeable, so that's not an issue for us. If we need to look at different plantings along the top of the wall, along with Minister Yasowski, we certainly would do that also. We're just very limited in what we can do. Our site coverage is less than what it is, from what I know, which is much less than what any of you know in terms of taking care of the environment and the resource area, because we care a lot about that. We want it to be environmentally friendly. We will commit to that IA system, which the little bit of reading I did about it says it's much better for nitrogen. So we're gonna, process the nitrogen. It's not gonna run off. We're not gonna use fertilizer, all those things. The vegetated buffer area, the building coverage is under the 30, as I said. The decrease in overall site coverage is 12% less, 3,076 to 2017. So we're trying really hard here to make it work for us, but also make it work for the environment and be able to move things ahead. So we were represented well. I appreciate that, and thank you for just giving me a minute or two to make a few comments.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any comments from members of the audience?
I should probably jump in here real quick because I don't think I made this announcement before. If you're on the phone and for any of these hearings at public comment time, you want to make a comment, it's *6 to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Amy. All right, well, seeing none, then I think would you like to continue until March 17th?
I believe so. If Joe and Kathy, that's what they would like to do.
Yes, please.
Okay, and you've heard, comments on enhanced plantings, but also you've heard requests for the house moving closer to the resource area. So if you could consider those back to us, we can probably work something out at the next meeting.
Brad, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're moving away from something.
Okay, did you make out that last statement?
No.
Or okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I just kind of summarized that there is some sentiment that doesn't support moving the house closer to the resource area, and there is also some interest in maybe finding ways to improve the plantings along the bank. So you've got a couple options to consider, and we look forward to discussing these with you on March 17th.
Okay, thank you.
The hearing for the notice of intent for 4 Eastern Avenue, map 6, parcel J3-8 until March 17th, 2021. Have a second, please.
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Stan. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Ernie,
Aye.
and myself, Brad Chase. The motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you all. All right, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 9 Fiddler's Landing, map 6, parcel A1-9. It's a proposal for vegetation management to remove invasive plants and enhance existing native plantings. Do we have a representative here tonight?
Yes, good evening. Katrine Higgins from Wilkinson Ecological Design. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. Also on the call tonight is John Schneibel from Coastal Engineering, who also worked on this. So just to be as brief as possible, this project is entirely restoration. There's no construction and no mitigation needed. It's really focused on invasive plant management and native plant restoration, primarily along the entire coastal bank of the property. And as you can see on our restoration plan, we've tried to integrate the previously approved mitigation plan created by Coastal that obviously that you approved before. And you'll see there's a few notes on our plan recognizing that work and how it could integrate with this new plan. So on the property, if you were out there along the coastal bank, you probably saw the bittersweet, the wisteria, English ivy, porcelain berry, multiflora rose, just to name a few of the most invasive species. We're proposing to remove these by hand using primarily the cut and wipe application. Although you'll see in our land management plan, we do talk about a targeted foliar application, which would be really focused on the English ivy specifically. Because of the nature of that small plant, it's really tough to do a cut and wipe on that English ivy. So instead, we're proposing for that species only to do a very targeted foliar application on that species. And it's really, this work is really in an effort to protect the existing native vegetation that's on the bank. There's some bayberry, high tide bush, pitch pine, and really some huge beach plum that are really significant. So we're trying to preserve all of those species. In addition, you'll see a note or two on our plan describing how we're asking to remove some saplings, some oak and cherry saplings that are quite, they're along the top of the coastal bank. They've been historically managed. They're not substantial. They lack biomass, essentially. So we're asking to remove those, and you'll see on our plan where we'd like to replace that tree layer with some thicker, nicer, healthier eastern red cedars, five of them on our plan, along with many other shrubs and herbaceous species, about 50 different species, including Carolina rose, bayberry, sweet pepper bush, switchgrass, penstemon, the beard tongue, and yarrow, just to name a few. And you know, this was a kind of an exciting project for us because we've worked on properties in the north along Allen Harbor, on the north of this, and also on the south. So when you really think about this area on a neighborhood scale, this has significant value to really kind of connect these various restoration projects that we've worked on already. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Amy, do you have a summary for us?
Sure. For the most part, I am completely in agreement with the proposed work. There is a lot of invasives on that embankment there, and there's a lot of plants that over the years, potentially by previous owners, that a lot of the more woody vegetation has been compromised. So properly pruning things, removing others, and replanting, I think, is overall good. On the southeast side, well, the area that you're planting the eastern red cedars, it would be nice to have them be a little bit less in line and hedge-like. And I just say that they're just a row of them, and they seem pretty tight together. If your plant is 1 inch is 20 feet, you have they're in pretty close proximity, maybe a little bit more spaced out. Maybe we could even incorporate those a little bit better into that mitigation area from 2018. But again, have it be a little bit more naturalized and just a little less linear. But that's really my only question. With that change, I would recommend approval.
All right, thanks, Amy. Let's get some comments and questions from the commissioners. We'll start with Stan.
No questions.
All right, Mark.
No remarks, thank you.
John.
Yeah, this looks fine to me. No comments.
Jim.
Yeah, this looks like an improvement. I agree with Amy's comments on the placement of the cedars, but looks like a good project. That's all.
All right, Carolyn.
I yield to Amy's suggestions. I think she is very knowledgeable in this area, and I think it's a win-win project. I think it'll be better for the environment, and it'll look better for the homeowners, and good for them to be doing it.
All right, thanks. And Ernie.
I have no comments. It looks fine. Thanks.
All right, thank you all. I'm just going to ask the question and express concern. I don't know if this project falls into this category, but over the past years, we've had a number of projects that have, sought to improve and remove invasive plants from coastal banks. And the result is that the area ends up looking really highly landscaped, very open, very sparse. And it's concerning to me, and I'm not accusing this project of being that type of project. I think concerns were expressed very well. But I just want to say that it is a concern that I have in the town of Harwich, that we have allowed some of these coastal banks to be overly swept clean, so to speak. And so I really want to express that concern for this project and ask if Amy can work with the proponents to really make sure that we have dense, natural, native plants that build up a good wildlife habitat and not have it become one of those more sparsely landscape type of projects. So I just wanted to put that pet peeve out there for folks to consider. That said, any comments from members of the audience? Star 6 if you want to speak. Okay, seeing none. Any additional comments from members of the commission? All right, hearing none, would one of the commissioners like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the notice of intent for 9 Fiddler's Landing for vegetation management to remove invasive plants and enhance existing native plantings.
All right, do I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Those opposed say nay, starting with Stan.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Ernie.
Aye. And just for the record, that was seconded by Mark.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Thank you for that. And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much and good luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 26 Saquatucket Bluffs Road, map 16, parcel N1-20. It's a proposal for a new dwelling. Do we have a representative here for the project?
Yes, John Schneibel from Coastal Engineering, representing the Hennemuths. People that are on the line with us is Rob Hennemuth, the owner, Leslie Schneeberger, the architect, Rob McPhee, the builder, and then Mike Cordasi, the landscape architect. I'll just go through a brief description of the project. First of all, I'll just say what's existing there now. There is an existing home. Hopefully you've seen the site. We staked out the different resource area, well, the buffer zones from the resource areas, and what we could stake out, since the house is kind of, the proposed house is basically in the same spot where the existing house is. The existing home right now is a single family home. It's 3,000 square feet footprint. And it does have a garage. paved driveway, landscaping, a lawn. One reason they're looking to replace it is that the first floor is actually about 9.5 and the flood elevation there is 11. So it's an area that could be flooded. Again, the resource areas are the coastal bank and the salt marsh. Both of them are across the street on the other side of Saquatucket Bluffs Road. Also on that side where the coastal bank is, there's an existing home. Most of the lot itself is in the floodplain. And as part of that, it's an AE zone 11. And what we're proposing is to remove the existing home and driveway and replace it with a new home. As you can see on the plan, the footprint there with a flood compliant foundation. We'll have flood vents, and the top of the foundation will be 12.5, and the first floor will be about 13.5 feet above the mean sea level. There is some filling in the driveway area just so we can, get access to the driveway. We've got to get that elevation up to 13, so to kind of match up with the rest of the house. So there'll be a little bit of filling in that area, and then also on the south side of the house there on the sunroom, it's going to be a slab. The house will have all utilities will be placed above the floodplain as required by the building code, and roof runoff will be directed towards a drip trench. We have a detail on our plan that shows that. Let's see, also for the driveway, we will be putting some catch basins in to direct all surface runoff from the driveway into those, which are basically right at the front, right there. It's at Saquatucket Bluffs Road. The house itself is outside any of the buffer zones of the buffer zone of the coastal bank and the salt marsh. The only area, resource area, is the floodplain, and the only increase in the driveway, and that is about 383 square feet, is within the 50 to 100. And again, like I did say, the driveway will, the catch basins will capture any surface runoff from the driveway. Prior to any work, we're going to have a work limit. A silt barrier is shown on our plan. It'll be installed. We're providing, that's for erosion control. And also that the main access for the construction is to be where the existing driveway is now and where the proposed driveway area is. There will be a secondary access just to work on any of the sunroom and any of the patio work. And that is, as you can see on the southern part there, that one is also where we're going to have our proposed electric line come up to the back of the house. Let's see if there's anything else here. I have to read my writing, it's pretty bad. So, and essentially that's it. I mean, we're gonna, after all the work has been done, we will have to repair all the disturbed areas, grade it out as per plan, and then follow Mike's landscape plan to for the mitigation, and then also to repair any other plantings that we have that are basically in the flood zone. So essentially that's it. Oh, I forgot to mention about the septic system. There's an existing septic system. We are going to connect with that. That was designed a couple of years ago. It is compliant with the Board of Health regulations and the state regulations. And so we're just going to retain that system and use it for the existing home. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have any summary comments for us?
Yeah, question first. Is all the mitigation planting proposed to be within existing planting beds, or is there going to be any decrease in lawn?
Presently, it's going to be in the existing beds that are there. Very little lawn would be.
Okay. Sometimes the commission takes a stance that, if, in order for it to be actual mitigation, you should be reducing, lawn or hardscape or something like that. Understanding that, you are asking for an additional 400 square feet in the 50 to 100 for the driveway. The house in itself is outside. But, at least I would suggest potentially looking a little bit outside of those planting beds, in order to be really considered mitigation. And that may be looking like something, either enlarging kind of you have for beds, and having that be native, or a row or two staggered, kind of along the road there of low native shrubs, something like that, that the house is going to be up, so not to impede the view, something like that. And then just a reminder that anything that is within the 100-foot buffer or floodplain, we will put the condition of no chemical applications, including organic fertilizers. And I do notice that a lot of the plantings that were chosen, either foundation plantings or augmenting the beds, are ornamental plantings that may need a little bit extra care to establish. So I would just be concerned that it would be tempting to use fertilizers on those plantings. So overall, I mean, it's the ask that you're asking for is very little. I think we just need to make a few tweaks to the landscaping plan.
I'm sure Mike can address that, but I think he could talk with you about the plantings and so forth, and get that again, like you said, tweaked to meet your concerns.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Let's go through comments and questions from the commissioners, and I'm going to take Stan off the hot seat and flip things around and begin with Ernie.
I have no comments. I think everything Amy said is right on target. So I'm comfortable with what her comments are.
All right. Thanks, Ernie. Carolyn.
Is your driveway permeable?
It is not. It'll be paved, and that's why we put those catch basins down at the edge of the drive, so no surface runoff will go down onto the road itself. And then, so we're going to circumvent any issues of it crossing the road into where the coastal bank of the salt marsh area is. So everything's going to be self-contained on the lot, the surface runoff.
Thank you. That's all.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question about the driveway as well. That would certainly be better if it was permeable. It's a large, expansive asphalt there that's proposed. Beyond that, yeah, I would agree with Amy's comments about the mitigation and both increasing the size. And then it looks like these beds are still mixed ornamental and native. There's the hydrangeas in there anyway. And anything that is a mitigation area should be, an area that's going to be naturalized and not, a planting bed per se, to be counted as mitigation. In regards to the lawn, it looks like the whole lot would be, am I right? Is the whole lot in the flood zone essentially?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it appears to be. So the, the regulations with the fertilizer and herbicides and whatnot would apply to the whole lot. I think it might be important on this one. I think it's in our language basically anyway, but to spell it out in this one, that any reseeding be done with native seed mix, and maybe specify the mix. I know we had some questions on that on some other properties, but maybe just get that set, whether it's going to be Cape Cod Harmony mix or something else. So there's no questions as to what that's going to look like when it's done. That's all for my comments.
I was just going to say, the homeowner is very well aware of all the no fertilizer, herbicides, etc. On all that, we're also even looking at something similar what Witchmere Harbor has with the micro clover, to help provide its own nitrogen. So we're looking at that as an alternative too.
All right, thank you. John?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize what Jim was saying about the lawn, because the lawn there now isn't really even a lawn. So I'm assuming that the owners are going to want to do something about that. And I think that whatever plan we approve needs to be very explicit about what is being done. And I don't see any real mention about that at all in the current plans.
All right, that's something that can be clarified. Mark?
No further remarks.
All right, and back to you, Stan.
No further remarks, Brad.
Okay, so I think that, we're hearing, some pretty good support for the proposal as described with the modifications that Amy has talked about. So I think we can go forward with this one tonight. Let me first ask if there's any comments from members of the audience.
Yeah, hi, this is Rob Hedemuth. The only comment I'd make, and I'm not even quite sure what the last comment was about, but there's a very well-established lawn there currently. So just to be clear, there's a very nice lawn that covers all of the existing property. And if anything, the amount of driveway hardscape is actually being reduced significantly because the current driveway runs across the whole back of the property, and the new driveway will only be a shorter amount because of the way the house is and driveway is designed.
All right, thank you for that comment. Do you want to describe how you'd like the lawn to be moving forward? What the post-construction look would be?
Well, we've been assuming that, and to be honest, I haven't seen it, but I understand that there are options. I believe one of the options is called Player's Best, which is what Witchmere Harbor uses, and we're happy to do that or something like that.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Okay, so if there's no further comments, I think we could entertain a motion for this proposal tonight.
Oh, can I just ask for one quick thing? If you do move on this tonight to approve, I would just ask to have the revised talk with, I'll talk with Michael Curadosi, but come to a consensus essentially on revisions to the planting plan so that you can have them in before you move on the order of conditions at your next meeting. I want you to see them too.
Amy, I'd be happy to revise this first thing tomorrow morning and shoot it over to you, and then we can kind of work through
Sure.
whatever else you'd like to see there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Okay, and that would include a couple options for a seed mix. Is that what you intend to do?
Yeah, I can make a note of that on the plan, what we plan to do there as well.
Okay.
We do have a file number too, by the way. So
All right, Amy, are you comfortable moving forward with this tonight, Amy?
I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, then, if one of the commissioners would like to make a motion.
I'll move to approve the notice of intent for 26 Saquatuck Pit Bluffs road with the changes to the planting plan and specifications of lawn details as a modification.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'll just chime in about the additional mitigation area. What are we talking about there? I look at the possibility of an extension to that bed towards the south of the southernmost bed. But what are we talking about square footage and location for that?
My recommendation is that, you know, adding to planting beds that exist isn't necessarily mitigation. So either find 800 square feet somehow, either by adding on to existing beds, you know, reducing lawn and something of that nature.
Yeah, right. I would be supportive of that. It might be a good idea to pin that down a little bit right now, as it's a fairly significant change.
Yeah, isn't it 1,200 square feet of remediation?
No, it's 400 square feet is the new hardscape. That's the correct number, is 400. Even one of the plans says 600, but one says.
I'm reading the 600. Sorry.
It's 383. Yeah, it's the 400 between the 50 and the 100 and 17-foot reduction from the 0 to 50. That's all the driveway.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, John, do you want to modify your motion to include?
Yeah, I'll modify the motion to include the requirement for an additional 800 square feet of mitigation planting.
Okay, and Mark, if you could second that again.
And again, a second.
All right, we'll vote now. Say aye. Those opposed say nay. Starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
Myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck with your project.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, same to you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 0 Snow Road, map 15, parcel N8-B-0-R. It's a proposal for a pier ramp, float, and dredging, and the applicant has requested a continuance until March 17, 2021. So I move that we grant that continuance. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by Stan. We'll vote by roll call, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So motion carries unanimously, and we'll have the hearing on March 17th, 2021. Okay, next, we have a notice of intent for 7 Prince Charles Drive, map 110, parcel S27. It's a proposal to construct a second floor addition to an existing dwelling and expand the existing deck to include proposed porch area. Do we have a representative here for the project?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, John O'Reilly again, representing Mr. Posh at 7 Prince Charles Drive. We have We have filed the notice of intent, just as described. He is asking to construct a second floor addition over the existing first floor garage, attached garage. There is no change in building footprint associated with the addition. There is a deck on the pond side of the existing deck on the pond side of the building that runs the whole length of, I'm sorry, about 80% of the length of the existing building. And we are looking to just simply extend that and incorporate the extension into a covered porch area for sitting, enjoying the lake and outside of the sun. The resource we're dealing with on this is, Long Pond with an associated BVW. There's also a resource. It's an isolated vegetated wetland. I actually have questioned whether or not this would meet your 3,000 square foot minimum requirement, but I did show it because it had been shown on other plans, specifically the septic plan. So I left that on there. It is a low area that does, I've seen water in it. So I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning whether or not it would be applicable. So to get back to the project, the additional deck area that will be porch is 97 square feet. It is above ground. It will require one concrete sonotube post to be set in the ground with a 4x4 or 6x6 post supporting the deck. To offset the 97 square feet, I do show a small area of mitigation within the 50-foot buffer. Ms. Uwowski did remind me earlier this week, or maybe even end of last week, that it is a 2-to-1 ratio. So obviously we would increase that 150 square feet to meet the 190 or 200 square feet, whatever it would be, for a 2-to-1 ratio for work within the 50 to 100. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have summary comments for us?
Sure. Just to put it out there, I did check again before the meeting, and we do not have a DEP number for this. John, if you know
No, I can get one.
you know.
No.
So with the actual project itself, I don't have really any issue as long as you bump up the mitigation to 2-to-1, which would be 192 square feet. It's up to you. We'll get into the other discoveries that were essentially made out there, and if we want to take care of those separately, or if we want to make it part of this project, we can talk about it. My recommendation might be to treat them separately. So upon visiting the site, it was noticed that there was a fairly new looking shed right at the edge of the wetland, as well as a deck. Give me 1 second to let the dog out. I'm very sorry about this. I'll try to finish my comments real quick before I do, I guess. She's getting very whiny in her older age here. So there's a newer shed. There is a newer looking shed, and then a deck that was noticed. Let Mr. O'Reilly know this, and I did get a letter from Mr. Posh, the owner, as well as from the landscaper of the property, stating that there had been footings for the old shed there previously, and that there had been a patio there where there is a deck right now. But I mean, we did go back and look. I mean, Google Earth is not all telling, but when we looked at images from it appears the deck appeared somewhere between April 2017 and October 2018. We can clearly see the planting bed before that, and I can see the shade, the retractable shade they have, but I don't see anything resembling a patio there. And then again, May 2016, don't see a patio. a shed appears somewhere between May 2015 and May 2016. So these are both structures in the 0 to 50-foot buffer that we don't have record of approval of, that were within the time period where you have a 50-foot no disturb zone. We did, Nikki pulled a plan for me this afternoon detailing an as-built site plan. Granted, it was back from '08, but on that plan, I mean, it was an as-built site plan for the house, but it did show the garden area that you that is there, but yet it didn't, and the dock, but it made no note of a shed or a deck or patio, which I found interesting. If there was an effort to locate a garden, wouldn't there also be effort made to locate a shed or a deck? So my recommendation is to treat these two, the application for the addition, the second floor addition and deck expansion separately, and that way give us a little bit more time to delve kind of farther a little bit into these things. So, I mean, regardless, we can't move on the project tonight. So on the project itself, I have no issue.
All right, thank you, Amy. All right, so we can't conclude tonight, but let's have comments from the commissioners on both the proposed plan as well as the potential enforcement action, starting with Ernie.
Sorry. Yeah, with respect to the proposed plan, increase the mitigation area, and I'm fine with what's been requested.
All right, Carolyn.
I am not in favor of approving the proposed plan until after we resolve the possible violations.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I do think I agree that it can be appropriate to hold up new proposals when a property is out of compliance with an existing order of conditions. That seems right to me. Other than that, I don't necessarily have any issue with the proposed addition there. But it doesn't seem like we would have approved that deck at all. So that might have to get into a removal discussion. But I'll leave my comments at that for now.
All right, thanks, John.
Yes, similarly, I don't really have any problem with the proposal. I will say that I looked pretty closely at Google Earth images as well as Amy and Nikki did, and it's pretty clear to me that there wasn't a deck there before sometime in 2018, I think, and it does appear that there also wasn't a shed there, and the shed is clearly new, and even if there was a shed there, permits were necessary to replace it, I believe. There's also, just as an additional note, just on the pond side of the shed, there's a big, like 4x8 piece of sheathing chipboard lying on the sand, which also shouldn't be there. I suspect it's there to hold beach toys or kayaks or whatever, but it's just another thing suppressing any vegetation or anything. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Mark?
I see no issue with the project, and I'm of the belief that they are two separate items regarding any enforcement action or any other corrections to the property, and it is my belief they should be separate and addressed separately.
All right, thank you for that. Stan?
I'll agree with Carolyn, but I guess I have two other comments. I guess I want to make sure that if you, Amy, you're talking the planting beds, the one along the beachfront area?
That shows up as a garden area on the as-built plan of the dock.
I guess, I don't know, I was just questioning, I guess the landscaping timbers that were holding that area, those look fairly new, in my opinion. And the other comment was the storage of the dock as well was right along the beachfront, although it was probably propped up over those landscape timbers. But I think that's a concern too, as far as the proper storage of that dock. That's all I have.
Yeah, and the
All right,
plan shows existing rock wall on the plan, John, but it is timber. Not a big deal, but
I can certainly go back and check about the rock wall versus the timber. It just may be a mislabeling.
yeah. Let me look too if, well, I do have, I mean, the photos I have here, at least as far back as 2015, there appears to be a wall of some sort, but we didn't go back farther than that.
Yeah, we can look.
Yeah, may I chime in here for a minute? I'd just like to reinforce what Stan just said, because the pieces up here are stored on what would otherwise be a planting bed, but looking under where all the pieces up here were, there was nothing growing. So I don't think that's a good situation. There should be planting there.
Through the chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you. With regards to the dock storage, I've made a note. I'll review a number of things with the homeowners, and we'll check on the planting. I believe that bed is fully planted. It's just not showing signs, but I will tie back into the client with that.
So looking forward to a continuance. When do you think you'd like to come back to us?
Well, if we could do your next meeting, 17th, I don't know if you're still accepting hearings for that. I have been shuffling Amy's questions about the deck. I'm sorry, the deck and the shed to Mr. Posh, and he has returned the 2 letters that Amy referred to. So obviously we need to dig into this a little bit, and I'll be in touch with Amy, but I'd like the 17th. Well, certainly if the commission is a majority of moving forward with this project and dealing with it separately, we could certainly get the revised plans if that's the case by the 17th. But yeah, 17th works for me. Yep.
All right, Amy, how's it looking the 17th so far?
We're starting to fill up, but we could take this one and maybe one more.
Okay. I guess you did hear some interest in resolving the enforcement actions first, so I think it would be important to make some progress on that as well at the same hearing if we could.
Yes, I will do that. And I did hear that, yes.
Okay. Well, then I move we continue until, continue the hearing for 7 Prince Charles Drive, map 110, parcel S27, until March 17, 2021. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by John. And those in favor say aye, those opposed say no. The roll call starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. We'll see you on the 17th. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a notice of intent for 41 Sequotum Road, map 101, parcel S5-2, reconstruction of an elevated timber stairway, repair patio and wall, repair boathouse and shed, install a kayak, and replace the existing seasonal dock with a new seasonal dock. Is this you as well, John O'Reilly?
Yes, I am. Yes, it is me. Thank you. The owners of the property are looking to do a number of things. The introduction of the project outlines the various aspects. When in looking at this, we initially they wanted to relocate their stairs, and the issue that was driving it was because at the bottom of the stairs, in periods of high water, it does get a little mushy at the end of the stairway and as they walk over to the patio. So the project started with a removal of the existing at-grade stairs and proposing an elevated timber stairway that would start in the same location, so we're covering area that's already altered, and then sliding to the east, and then on a landing, and then another set of stairways down adjacent to the existing boathouse on the property. So that is one item. We are looking to simply restore the existing features that are adjacent to the pond. The rock wall, excuse me, the concrete block wall is in need of repair. We'd be looking to simply replace blocks during period, replace the blocks, not add any elevation or change its size or shape, simply repairing it in place. The repairing would be done during periods of lower water, so we're not dealing with any type of disturbance of the area with it being saturated. The patio is contained within the retaining wall, and the applicants are looking just to simply restore it, basically put down new pavers. Again, no change in footprint. It's going to be a dry lay patio that will allow water to transfer from the surface to the sand below. And then the boathouse is in need of repair. So they are looking to simply repair and restore the boathouse so it can be more functional for them for storage of various items. And then last but not least, the current property is serviced by a timber dock and boat lift, and they are looking to replace that older structure with a new seasonal aluminum fabricated dock. The dock is laid out to be 62 feet away from the edge of the water, closer to 67 feet out from the edge of the retaining wall. We have a small landing at the end of it, which is typical that you've seen of other docks that we've done for the ponds. And then attached to that at the end would be the relocated boat lift. I have not had a chance. Amy did talk to me about an abutting dock, and I have not had a chance to get that on the plan. And having seen some of her comments and concerns, I think we might have some additional edits to make. So I would make those additions to the plan at that time. And I'm sorry, not last but not least, they are proposing, they would like to construct a kayak rack adjacent to the bottom of the slope in the sandy beach area. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has, and we do not have a file number on this as well.
All right, thank you. Amy, do you have summary comments for us?
Sure. First, I did talk to John Rendon later later on today, and he just wants to take a look at it with you, John. It is, I mean, the pre-existing dock, and now I see there was also a boat lift, were farther inland. This is a little bit farther out, but in addition, to locate the neighboring dock would be good. So if you could just touch base with the harbor master, that would be great. Yeah, the other things, the replacement of the wall to be rebuilt, no change in height or, footprint, no change in the footprint of the patio, no change in the footprint of the boathouse. I have no issue with. I'm glad the patio is going to be pervious. I'm a little sad the tree's leaving. I think I talked to that, told that to the owner when I first met them when they bought the property, but I understand. The staircase, upon closer look, I am curious if there's a way to keep the stairs in the location that they're in, only because that area is already disturbed and that whole bank is very stable as it is right now. Rather than going down across then down again. The north facing slopes on severe slopes like this on Long Pond, tend to have a really hard time revegetating them. So if there was a way to keep the stairs in the same location, and then maybe to address your client's concern of it being kind of mucky right at the base, maybe the last little piece of it could kind of jog out a little bit and go a little bit closer towards the patio. With there's not like substantial trees or shrubby vegetation towards the base. Maybe it could, you have like a little 4x4 landing and have it scoot over. But I understand that, an in-ground staircase is not really for our regulations, that our regulations really want to have 18 inches of clearance underneath for vegetation growth. But I think in this very particular situation that it could lead to less damage to that very severe inland bank. So that was just a suggestion I would make. I'm not unfortunately in favor of a kayak rack in that location. We, if there's other options such as storage of the kayaks on the patio or on a side of a boathouse with a ramp or with a rack or even off the set of stairs, maybe that would be more appropriate if they wanted to have a little bit of something down that area and not up at the house. And we also noted that the boat lift that exists out there right now is being stored improperly, both on the beach but also on some native vegetation there. So we'd have to look at a better storage option off season for that boat lift. But I think with a little bit of tweaking, could be in favor of the project. Oh, and just to remind the commission, the dock does not have local approval, so they are looking for conservation approval for the dock as well.
All right, thank you, Amy. Let's go through comments and questions from commissioners. Begin with Ernie.
Yep, yeah, I think Amy's pretty much covered everything from my perspective. The only thing, John, on the plans, it says that the boat shed is to be reconstructed. You keep mentioning that it's going to be repaired. It looks like it's in condition that's a tear down and a rebuild to me.
Amy brought that comment up to me that we're using the word reconstruction and not rebuild. I went back to the client and his builder, and they basically are going to end up rebuilding the shed because it is in such a difficult, such in tough shape. But it's not going to change footprint and going to stay exactly where it is right now.
Yeah. Okay.
They're not anticipating having to put any more support or any earthwork or anything like that. It's simply carpentry work at that point.
Okay. All right. That's fine. I have no other comments.
Thank you.
All right, Carolyn.
I have a question. On this plan, it says existing wood stairs to be removed. My recollection, I don't recall wooden stairs there. There was a wooden railing, which was old and decrepit, but I thought they were stone built into the slope, as opposed to wooden built above the slope.
The stairs are in the slope, on the slope.
But it says wood. I'm
Yeah, it does say wood. I was under the. It's been a while since I've been out there. I thought they were wood, but we can certainly check on that. But they are in grade. They're not elevated, Ms. O'Leary. They sit right on the ground and step down.
Yeah, they were almost cinder block.
I've seen that before out there. I mean, on other properties on Long Pond quite often, but I can clarify that and.
Well, it's just a slight discrepancy, or my recollection was wrong from just a couple hours ago. But I would agree with Amy's comment that while that's not according to our usual way of doing it, it does look like retaining that footprint for this. A stone set of steps set into the slope would be less disruptive. That's my comment.
All right, thanks. Jim?
Yeah, I'll continue on with the stairs. I agree with Amy's comment that relocating them as proposed would really create a lot of that bank's in really good shape, and that's significantly more disturbance and in new places, and it would be difficult to restore the existing area, and could cause problems where you're going across just with new erosion by disturbing all that. So I think it'd be best to, whether they're built new to our regulations or left there. I mean, I think I could be fine with that either way. Of course, the bank would have to be stabilized either way. And then if there could be some other way of avoiding soggy feet at the bottom, that would be better than really disturbing that bank. That's the primary issue I see here. Not sure if I'd be in favor of the kayak rack on the beach either, but that's all.
All right, thanks, John.
Yeah, I guess I pretty much agree with what's been said before, except I'm concerned about those steps. I can confirm what Carolyn remembers. They're not wood, they're cinder blocks. I think the chances that both of us are confused are pretty low, so I think that's what they are. But one of the things that struck me about those steps toward the top of the bank is they're not actually level, they're sloped a little down. I don't think they're very safe. So I would not be in favor of suggesting that whatever is there should remain there. I'm not sure whether that was what Amy was suggesting or not, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't set in some stone steps where those cinder block steps are. And perhaps that's what you were suggesting, Amy. And
yeah, I didn't mean to be unclear. What I meant was replace in kind with in-ground steps in the same footprint, but I agree with what's there now is not safe. So that's what I intended.
And I don't see why you couldn't have a small landing at the bottom to avoid disturbing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, Mark, you're up.
I don't really have a lot to add other than the patio space down at the bottom, and maybe some consideration given to that to accept the water that lands on the patio and then a disbursement channel outside to to let it escape, so there isn't any expansion and cracking in the wall afterward. But that's all I can add.
All right, thanks, Mark. Stan?
Yeah, I agree with Amy. I think where the stairs are, I think that would probably cause less damage in rebuilding those stairs, putting new stairs in there than cutting across that bank, and it's a pretty steep bank. And then, John, I just want to clarify, going back, I assume the wording on our drawing is more clear than what's in the letter or memo, because in the letter talks about basically repairing everything, whether it be the patio, the boat house, or the retaining wall, which I don't think we mentioned here, whereas on the plan, everything is referring to be reconstructed or rebuilt.
To clarify, that is the intent. It's the structures and the items down there have gone well past their useful life, and they will be reconstructed.
So what about the retaining wall? What's that going to be made out of?
Well, currently it's concrete block, and we would use a landscape precast timber. I'm sorry, not timber. A concrete block that would simply stack in the same area of the existing wall. So the blocks would be taken out, removed from the site, and then the new blocks would be installed. And we would add gravel behind the new blocks to assist with the drainage, which would address the previous comment as well.
All right, thank you.
Well, all right, thank you, Stan. I was muted, sorry about that. I have no further comments to add. John O'Reilly, do you want to come back on March 17th?
Yeah, this, again, we don't have a DEP file number, so we couldn't close. I don't think you can close it anyway. Can I just ask a clarifying question? I think what's driving the whole staircase down the slope is the current one is not safe in the eyes of the applicant. I will take this, take these comments back to them, but they may have reasons that they don't want the at-grade steps. And we talked about an elevated elevated stairway that would have a harmonious tread width and rise. So I will bring this back to the client, but I don't want to walk away saying with the commission thinking I'm going to come back with an at-grade step. I think we might come back with an elevated step, but I'll review all of this with them. But it would
John, John, this is the owner. Would this be appropriate time to ask to comment, or do you want me to wait?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were on the call.
I'd be happy to address these issues if I know you asked later, so I don't want to jump in if I'm not supposed to.
No, please go forward.
Please.
Okay. Thank you. This is Mariner Kemper. So I appreciate you all reviewing this. I know this is a long night for you, so appreciate it. So I will echo the question about wood versus concrete block steps. They are concrete block. They are set into the side of the hill. I have been responding to what I understood the needs and issues were of conservation and the commission. So we would be happy to rebuild them and set them into the side of the mountain or hill. I was under the impression that you wanted steps that came up above the land. So that's us reacting to you. So happy to leave stone steps into the ground if that's what you'd like. And the only reason we suggested going to the jogging to the right instead of going straight into the water is if you've actually walked them, the steps actually go into the water. And when you step off the steps, you actually break up the bank. So you're breaking up the bank when you step off the steps. So if you're all comfortable with a little landing that jogs to the right, that solves all the problems. I actually was doing it from a conservation standpoint, thinking that you would prefer us to jog to the right instead of breaking up the bank as you step off the stairs. So totally comfortable with really whatever you all suggest there. We thought we were reacting to the needs of, you know, conservation and the commission with that issue. So we'll do whatever you want with that. Easy peasy on our front. And then on the kayak rack, I guess I would just ask, I don't know if you've spent any time down there, but there's literally in the very same place we would want to put ours in, the next door neighbor has one on their property line. And it's exactly the same place. You know, if you don't want it, we won't do. We'd like to get this project approved. So if you don't want a kayak rack, we'll remove the kayak rack. But you know, the summer's coming, so we'd love to get this approved. I'd love to find out what you guys need tonight and make the changes. We sort of thought all we were doing was repairing things for the most part here. So if there's anything I can address to get this approved.
Well, we can't unfortunately approve it tonight because we do not have a number from the state.
Oh, okay.
But
What's that?
it was submitted. Hopefully it'll be coming soon, but we can't do that tonight. So your assumption was correct. Normally we do like stairs to be elevated. It actually says in our regulations stairs should be elevated, so that's what John did. This situation, and normally in most situations, elevated stairs are the way to go. In your situation with the steepness of the bank, while it's naturally vegetated, we are concerned that by more disturbance, by putting in a new set of stairs and disturbing the vegetation and ground, that it might have more erosion. So you are correct in your assumption. But in your specific situation, I think it's less invasive to leave them in the same footprint and then maybe just jog a little bit at the bottom over.
That works for me.
So
that would be fine for us.
Yeah, and I'm not precisely sure that the neighbor necessarily has a permitted kayak rack. I'd have to look into that a little bit farther. But we do try to.
We don't need one. We don't need a kayak rack if that's gonna, you know, kill our project. I mean, we can stack our kayaks up on the beach or whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. It's more so it's just a structure. So we can discuss that, but we can't close tonight anyways.
Okay.
John O'Reilly, I'm not sure if John Rendon, the harbor master, is going to want you just to talk to him or if he wants you to go to waterways.
Well, if we can keep the 17th open, and give me a chance to talk to John.
Yeah, we can put you on the 17th. Just know it may be one after, but hopefully not. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? I think you guys mentioned the tree. I didn't intend on, you know, it wasn't our idea to remove the tree either, actually. So if all we want to do is get this approved, and thought we were mostly you know, just repairing things. So we're happy to take any kind of counsel to just get this approved. And I understand we have to go to the 17th, but we're easy peasy as far as trying to live within all the rules and regs here. Our whole beachfront area is just falling apart. Nobody's touched it in, you know, 50 years. So we just want to repair things. That's all we want to do.
We appreciate that. The tree was not a hang up for me. It was just a side comment, and it maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was a prospective buyer that I met down there who was, you know, mentioned that, you know, wanting to get rid of the tree. It's not a hang up to me if it stays or goes. I don't know about the rest of the commission.
Okay.
Excuse me, Amy. I just want to bring up the stair thing because I'm listening to the owner here. I thought I heard him say stone or cement stairs. I'm not sure we're suggesting that, correct? We're just saying constructed in that footprint.
Yeah, I don't think we said necessarily what material it had to be, just in the same footprint in grade.
Right, I just didn't want to create any confusion there so that, you know, in 2 weeks from now, we're saying that's not what, you know.
Yeah, they're blocked now is all I was saying. And so if there's a need for them to be wood or a need for them to be stone or, you know, whatever, obviously wood set into the ground would rot. So I don't assume that's what you're referring to, but you know, whether they're stone or whether they're block, we don't really care. So it's really what you guys want.
I'd say that it doesn't sound like, as far as materials, as long as it's not, you know, pressure treated at the base, it wouldn't be a big deal. So if you wanted to do stone, I don't think that would be an issue of any kind, stone of any kind. It's the footprint that we care about.
Okay. Well, John, and we'll work with John on that just to make sure it's conforming. And
All right, then. I think we're all set to continue until the 17th. Any last comments? Okay. Well, then I move that we continue the hearing for 41 Sequoia Road, map 101, parcel S5-2 until March 17th, 2021. Could I have a second, please?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Stan. All those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
and Stan.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So motion carries unanimously. We'll see you on March 17th. Okay, next we have a notice of intent for 5 C Street, map 7, parcel D22, proposal for a new building. And John O'Reilly, I think we have you one more time tonight.
Yes, you do. But first you'll hear with me is Attorney Wall, Brian Wall, who will start us off tonight. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney. And together with John O'Reilly, I'm here tonight representing the applicants, Walsh Brothers Building Company, and also the owner of the subject property, estate of Lois A. Jones. Just before I go on, can everyone hear me okay? Yes, okay. Let me just give some brief background about the property. The estate owns a vacant lot located at 5 C Street Extension in Harwichport. The lot was created back in 1925. It is approximately 22,000 square feet in area, and it is accreting. The decedent, Lois H. Jones, purchased the property in 1958, and the Jones family has owned it for the ensuing 63 years, and they have paid taxes on the property the entire time. All of the lots surrounding the property have been developed with single-family homes. This property is the only lot in this neighborhood that has not yet been developed, and I've included a photo with the letter that I submitted to the commission setting forth our arguments. This is not the first attempt. I think some of the commissioners might remember a past attempt to develop the property, and I certainly know that Amy does because she was the conservation agent, I believe, at the time. The estate previously sought to develop the property with a single-family dwelling, a driveway, septic system, and other utilities. In 2011, a notice of intent was filed proposing this house in line with the other existing houses set back from the road approximately 25 feet. By citing the house in this particular location, it was within the Harwich 50-foot no disturb zone associated with the coastal dune that's on the property. The NOI utilized as its delineation another delineation that was in an order of conditions that was issued by the Harwich Conservation Commission to the town of Harwich in 2009 with regard to some drainage and road work that the town was doing in the road. This wetlands permitting process went on for a very lengthy time. Obviously, we're 10 years on now. In a nutshell, what happened was the DEP determined that the applicant was in fact entitled to utilize that wetlands delineation in the 2009 Town of Harwich order. a final decision was issued by the DEP in 2015 approving the proposed house under the state act. So the applicant went back to the commission and applied again under only the bylaw, but the commission denied that project primarily because it was within the 50-foot no disturb zone. That denial decision was appealed to Superior Court. There has been a decision that appeal affirmed the commission's denial, but that appeal still remains pending in Superior Court. The DEP's decision has been extended, so the state order of conditions that we have to build the house on the property was extended and remains in effect until December 22nd, 2021. And I included a copy of that extension with the materials that we submitted. The estate also has asserted that the denial decision resulted in a regulatory taking of its property and that it is entitled to just compensation because of being denied to build. That case also remains pending, but during that case, I had the pleasure of deposing Amy Uzowski, and I asked her some questions about what her opinion was regarding whether or not there was any way possible to develop this property. And what she said, and I included this in the letter that I submitted, and I'll paraphrase it. She said it was her opinion that there's room outside of the 50-foot no disturb zone in order to site a small dwelling that could be compliant with the commission's rules and regulations. And she noted that at the deepest point between the front of the lot and where the 50-foot buffer zone to the dune was about 40 feet. So whatever area that was in there was potentially developable. The estate listened to that very carefully and went back to the drawing board, and we came up with a new project that now is before you tonight that is entirely outside of the 50-foot no disturb zone and is in the area where Amy suggested that it would be compliant with the regulations. The estate proposes to develop the property tonight with a pile-supported single-family dwelling with a septic system and utilities. The proposed project is very detailed described in John O'Reilly's notice of intent narrative and his plans, and he will be talking to you about the details. I just want to highlight a couple of points about the project. So first, how were we able to change the design of the property, that project? This is possible because in my representation, I learned that the lot was created before the Harwich zoning bylaw was adopted. Harwich adopted zoning in 1951, and the lot was built, laid out and approved in 1925. So as a result of that, the lot is grandfathered and is not subject to the normal front and rear and side yard setbacks. As a result of that, it enabled the applicant to move the house almost all the way out to the road, which now puts it in the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone and entirely out of your no disturb zone. In fact, the pile supported foundation and the house are a minimum of 60.1 feet from the coastal dune. There is a cantilevered deck that's proposed on the ocean facing side, but that is a minimum of 51.6 feet from the coastal dune. So our contention is that it does comply with your buffer zone regulations because, number one, as I've articulated, it's 50 feet or more away from the coastal dune outside of your no buffer zone entirely. And also, I know that the commission's regulations have a 2-to-1 mitigation requirement for work that's within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. But we contend that the regulations also provide the commission with flexibility in this matter when it comes to specifically new construction on vacant lots. There are provisions in your regulations that specifically address new construction, and these confirm that the regulations allow new construction on vacant lots as long as the setbacks are maintained, notwithstanding your 2-to-1 mitigation requirement. Indeed, if you were to strictly and literally interpret your mitigation requirements, they would nullify these other provisions that specifically contemplate construction of new homes. So it's our contention that when the provisions of the buffer zone regulations are read together in a reasonable and harmonious way, the following results. A house has to be outside the 50-foot no disturb zone. Structures must be set back at least 60 feet from the resource area. And if the commission deems it necessary, a 5-foot wide vegetated buffer strip in addition to the 50-foot no disturb zone where necessary and where feasible. All of this is in my letter. I know it's quite a bit, but the commission may recall just a few months ago, I made this exact same argument to you regarding some property at 46 Indian Trail. In that particular case, the applicant owned a 1.46 acre lot that was vacant, and the entire lot was either in the 50-foot no disturb zone or the 100-foot buffer zone. The applicant in that case proposed a house, septic system, and a driveway outside of the 50-foot no disturb, but entirely within the 100. And there was some discussion by the commission as to whether or not the 2-to-1 mitigation requirement applied. And we contended that because it was new construction on a vacant lot, the commission had flexibility in this area. And at this particular project, the house was 56 feet from the wetland at its closest point. And the commission approved the proposed house and issued an order of conditions without requiring 2-to-1 mitigation, but requiring a conservation restriction to be recorded on the area beyond the limit of work. This project before you tonight is very similar to the 46 Indian Trail project in that the proposed structure is outside the 50-foot no disturb, but within the 100. The house at 46 Indian Trail was 56 feet from the wetland. Our proposed house before you is 60.1 from the dune. The proposed house does have a cantilever deck that is 51.6 feet from the dune, but because it is cantilevered and because it is elevated at least 15 feet above the finished grade, it complies with your setback requirement because your requirement requires that it allows for passage between the building and the 50-foot buffer and to prevent the intrusion of any lawn or disturbance into the 50-foot buffer. And the project does that. So again, we assert that this is an approvable project and we would ask you to take a close look at it tonight. Before I yield the floor to John O'Reilly, there are abutters in opposition to this particular project that did submit some materials. We do not have a DEP file number, and so we will also be asking for a continuance. And I will address these arguments that have been made in a more detailed fashion and in writing prior to the next hearing. But if I may very briefly, there are basically two primary arguments that are being made by the abutters. The first has to do with the notice. The commission has a form that all applicants use that basically you type out the name of the property and the name of the applicant and you put it into an envelope and you send it to all the abutters. This form actually at the top says that it's an application under the bylaw and does not specifically mention the act. And so the abutters have said that the notice is insufficient because it fails to reference the act. This is at least how I understand the argument. Our contention is if you continue on reading the notice, paragraph 2 specifically refers to the project being done under the act as well as the bylaw, and we would respectfully submit that therefore notice was sufficient. And furthermore, there's a ton of case law in Massachusetts that says if someone complains about notice, but they actually showed up at the hearing and had an opportunity to be heard, then the argument about notice is moot. And I would submit that the parties that are making the argument about notice are actually here tonight in opposition. So it's a moot issue. The second point is a very technical matter, and I'm going to try to describe it briefly. And again, I will submit a letter before our next hearing addressing this. As I said in the presentation, the applicant in this matter is relying upon a delineation that was set forth originally in a 2009 order of conditions that the Harwich Conservation Commission issued to the town of Harwich to do work on this particular road. There was a dispute about that in the prior permitting history, and the dispute was resolved in favor of the applicant after a hearing before the DEP. The DEP ruled that the applicant was in fact entitled to rely upon that 2009 delineation. We are relying upon that same delineation today because the permit that was issued by the DEP is still valid, and therefore the delineation, we contend, is still valid. The abutters cite 310 CMR 10.05 3B1, which does in fact say, and we concede this, that if you delineate a wetland, the delineation is valid for 3 years. However, the abutters have not cited other applicable regulations, including 310 CMR 10.058A, and again, I'll submit all this in writing. This allows an applicant to request extensions of permits of up to 3 years, and applicants are entitled to ask for multiple extensions And if they're granted them, the permits remain valid, as do the delineations that those permits are based upon. That's what the applicant did in this case. The SOC that was issued by the department was validly extended. It's been recorded. The permit is valid until December of this year. Furthermore, and this is my final point, 10.058B provides criteria for the DEP to deny a request for an extension. And one of those criteria is if the resource area delineation is not accurate, or another one is if the proposed permit does not adequately protect the interests of the act. The DEP was aware of these provisions when we asked for the extension, but the DEP did not deny the extension request. And therefore, it's very clear that the DEP felt that the delineation was still valid. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. O'Reilly for details regarding the project. And lastly, I'll just simply say this. The estate is doing all it can. If you look at this project, it was painstakingly thought through by the applicant, by Mr. Walsh, who's on the call tonight. He's a builder and he's been very influential in the project design. And Mr. O'Reilly has done a great job to squeeze this house into the area on the lot that remains developable. We would ask you to look at it carefully and hopefully approve it. And if you do approve it, it obviously vitiates taking claim that we'd rather not proceed on. So with that, I turn it over to Mr. O'Reilly.
Thank you, Attorney Wall. Attorney Wall went through the project in a summary. I'm just going, it's late in the night and I'm going to keep it very short. But basically what we've done is taken advantage of the lack of zoning requirement on this lot and proposed a pile supported structure. The pile supported structure is very similar to previous applications, with the exception of we are now elevating the structure so it affords us the ability to put the entire septic system underneath the structure. As far as not only is the septic system underneath the structure, but we have designed the piles with the elevation of the structural members of the pile supported structure, that you can pull a car under the building to get it off the road. It will be over the septic tanks and pump chamber that we're proposing. The type of leaching facility is very similar to the previous applications, where it is a perchlorate disposal field, which is a very shallow field, sits very close to the surface. So there's some nutrient uptake from the upper layers of the soil, as well as maintains 5 feet from the adjusted groundwater for the parcel. The septic system is compliant with Title V as far as setbacks to the property lines for components. And so we should, so with regards to the dwelling, we do show an internal set of stairs leading from the grade up to the interior of the house, and then another set of stairway off the deck. The deck, again, there's no post associated with the deck. It's cantilevered structure tied into the foundation of the pile supported structure. I do show some sections on here, sections B and section A, which show how the piles and the foundation relate to the proposed grades over the septic system. We are proposing a limit of work along the 50-foot buffer zone, and we are going to utilize hopefully the pathway down to Nantucket Sound. The plan is very busy. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I will point out a couple items on the plan. We do show the boundary of the velocity zone and the AE zone, or the still water zone, which is seaward of the proposed house, well within the dune edge, well within the dune south of the building. We do show the DEM restriction line on the plan. I know that was brought up in a letter from one of the abutters consultants, but we did check the location of that 142R district, which is the restricted district. And we did have the line, we do show the line on the plan, and that line has remained the same from the previous applications as well. Attorney Wall, I don't know if I missed anything, but I guess I'll leave it at that. We do have several conservation notes on the plan that address roof runoff. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think, John, you covered it. What we're hoping to do tonight, since we have to ask for a continuance because of the DEP file number, is to hopefully get some feedback and comments from the Conservation Commission members and the agent, and also obviously the abutters are here and represented by council and by wetlands professional scientists. So we'd like to hear what all the comments are, and at the conclusion, we'll ask for a continuance.
All right, thank you both. Amy, do you have summary comments for us?
Sure. First, I would like to state that as the applicant has attorneys and the abutters have attorneys, and this has been a case that's gone into DEP as well as Superior Court, I do think it would be a wise decision for the Conservation Commission to request that our town council be available at the next meeting on behalf of the commission. With that, I'm not going to get too deep into the merits of the case. I will state that coastal dunes are very dynamic resource areas. We have what is a lot line dune essentially here, of undeveloped lot that over time, due to no restriction, has formed in between here. One of my recommendations is a redelineation of the resource area. And that, let's see, I think I had one more thing. Oh, and in regards to the previous cases, which we can't get into too much with the Superior Court still pending, is that our regulations have changed since that time in terms of what can and can't take place or in the buffer zones, and our mitigation requirements have been more solidified, whereas we did not have ratios before. We do have ratios now. So since the time of that previous case in my deposition, regulations have changed. Those are my points, and if you do go for a continuance, just because of, I think there's a lot of moving parts, and I would like to get our counsel in, I would recommend April 7th and not March 17th.
All right, thank you, Amy. Okay, so I think we're looking to have comments from the commissioners on the plans proposed. So we'll go through and start with Ernie.
Yeah, I'm not willing to make any comments unless our attorney's present on the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, Carolyn.
I don't really want to make comments on the plan either, because there are a couple of things that confuse me. I don't understand, unless our attorney could help us, why they don't have to follow zoning laws, because the Joneses were not the original owners, and they bought it in 1968, which was after 1951. So that would have to be clarified to me by our attorney. And it makes no sense to me why we would be using a delineation that's 9 years outdated for something as important as a dune. So that would be a technicality that I would like our attorney to address. And once that's addressed, then I'll look at the merits. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Carolyn. Jim. Jim, you still on?
I don't see him, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
We can
we'll
come
come
back
back
to
later.
him.
Sure, John.
Yes, I don't have any comments at this point. Thank you.
All right, Mark.
I have nothing to say at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, Stan.
Yeah, no real comment. Yeah, I can't see digging into the merits of the project when there's too many other legal issues outstanding that have nothing to do with me since I'm not a lawyer. And those are other issues that are involved here. So no comment beyond in regards to the project.
All right, thanks, Stan. And I would just like to say for myself that I think, you know, it is a tight lot. I think the wetlands delineation update is really important. So I think that would be a starting place to review once we have that. So let
Mr.
me ask.
Chairman, Jim is on right now.
Okay. Jim, did you have any comments on this project? Yeah, I'm not sure if he's available. Well, he can come back at some point. So, you know, we're obviously heading towards a continuance, but I'd like to ask if any members of the audience or abutters would like to speak at this point. Yes, please, go ahead.
Chairman, I'm Attorney David Reed. I represent Charles Curtis, who owns the property on the opposite side of the street from the northeast corner of this site. Mr. Curtis has been involved with this property since the initial reviews beginning in 2011 and 2012, and all the appeals other than the regulatory taking appeals, which have nothing to do with the private parties. You should have a letter from me dated March 1st addressed to the commission on the issue of the delineation. You should also have a letter from Arlene Wilson of AM Wilson and Associates, also on behalf of Mr. Curtis, addressing some of the merits as well as some of the history of the site. Let me first say that on the issue of the delineation, we completely disagree with Attorney Wall's analysis. I think he's not distinguishing between the perpetuation of an order of conditions versus the mandatory perpetuation of a determined delineation. The regulation says that the delineation is binding on the town and the parties for a period of 3 years. It's now 12 years since the 2009 delineation was made. And I can also report to you, as is both referenced in my letter and in Ms. Wilson's letter, that in 2012, when the first proposal by Walsh Brothers was before the commission, and I think Mr. Chase was on the board at that time, everyone involved agreed at that time that the 2009 delineation was wrong, that the entire site was a coastal dune. That includes the experts retained by Walsh Brothers and the Jones family at the time, but also our consultant, Ms. Wilson and Sterling Wall, all agreed that that delineation was just plain wrong, that the entire site was in fact a coastal dune. And so there was no issue of the no-build 50-foot area because there was no 50-foot buffer. It was all dune itself, all resource area. The fact that their order of conditions has been extended, in my opinion, does not extend that 3-year period within which your prior delineation, wrong as it may have been, was mandatorily to be obliged by the commission on subsequent applications for the same property, affecting the same delineation. It's now been 12 years since then, and we respectfully suggest that the fact that they have an outstanding order of conditions does not change the fact that the site is not properly delineated and should not be relied upon at this late date. There's one, I'm sorry, with respect to Amy's testimony, as she indicated, there have been changes in your regulations since that was given. I don't know when that deposition took place. It appears that it was done as part of the regulatory taking case, not the appeal from your denial under the bylaw. But in any event, it's clearly dependent upon either the same plan or the same type of plan showing the 2009 dune delineation, because otherwise there is no 50-foot area and there's no area outside of the 50-foot. So that entire testimony is predicated upon their premise that they're entitled to rely upon the 2009 delineation, which we do not believe they are. And therefore, the suggestion that there is an area that's buildable outside of the 50-foot is also not applicable to the current situation. There's one, with respect to the zoning issue, as Mr. Wall lays out in his letter, and in the land court case that he appended to his letter, lots that are created and separated from common ownership prior to the adoption of zoning, which is the case here, are in fact exempted from various lot dimensional requirements, but not from all zoning and not from all requirements of the bylaw. They're exempt only from area, frontage, yard, width, and depth requirements. That's what the statute says. There's one minor zoning issue that I think it does not comply with as proposed. It's not for you to decide that, but since the act does require that zoning relief that is needed be at least applied for before you conduct your determination, I feel obliged to at least bring it to your attention at this time and to Mr. Wall's attention. The bylaw currently requires that a residence have 2 off-street parking spaces on their property in order to conform to the current bylaw. And those spaces must be at least 9 by 20 feet in size. The area underneath the house that Mr. O'Reilly has hatched out for parking appears to be approximately 12 feet by 27 feet. That's just my attempt to approximately scale it. I'm sure he can tell me if that's wrong. But that's not room enough for 2 spaces. It's only room for 1 space, a little bit more than 1 space. And so therefore, I believe that if they're going to stick with this arrangement, that a variance is required from the parking requirement of the zoning bylaw in order to proceed with this project as designed. So for the reasons that we've put in our letters, I know it's late and I know you're going to hear this again, but I respectfully suggest that that the conservation agents and several of the commissioners' concerns that a proper scientific delineation be conducted on the site is absolutely appropriate and absolutely necessary. Although you do have in your file the previous correspondence from LEC Environmental, Stanley Humphreys, who was working for the applicant back in 2012, who himself says point blank in his letter that the entire site is a coastal dune. I'll defer briefly to Ms. Wilson if she wishes to add anything. I know you don't want to go too deeply into it since you're going to have to come back again anyway, but if she wants to add anything at this point, I'd certainly yield to her. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission.
Mr. Chairman, if it's all right, I would like to add just a couple of things. The comments about which set of statutes this filing is made under aren't limited to notice to the abutters. The problem here is that if this filing is actually made under 13140, the department is ready to have 2 open orders of condition for different projects on the same site at the same time. They would require that the previous plan be withdrawn, which would mean that you've got an entirely new filing under 13140. If the filing is only being made under the local bylaw, my understanding is that the appeal of the local bylaw was completed, that it is not still pending. I know Mr. Wall said it is. I'm sure Mr. Reed will check into that further. But if it is not pending and the only thing that's pending is the taking case, then again, this is a brand new filing under your bylaw. You get to require an updated delineation without any question, because it would have been more than 3 years since your denial was upheld. There are those issues. To add on to the issue of prior obtainable local permits and presumptions of significance, even this filing still doesn't conform with the Town Board of Health regulations for septic system sightings. Because they can't conform with the local bylaw regs, the presumption that the septic system meets the prevention of pollution standard does not pertain. And they need to show you what the pollution loading will be in order to meet that standard. As you know, I concur with Mr. Humphreys and Mr. Wall, and I would note with the department, which agreed that the old delineation was wrong, which is why the original superseding order it upheld you rather than allowing the project to go forward, even though the final determination reversed that. If you look at the current DEP wetland mapping, you will see that they have moved the dune line so that it runs, and that's the dune crest line, not the entire dune. So now the dune crest runs sort of up into a line that would be in the middle of the two houses on either side. So even if they just use the dune crest, which is what the old delineation did, instead of the entire dune, they still would wind up in your 50-foot buffer. And I'll stop there.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments from members of the audience? All right, any follow-up comments from any of the participants? I think we're moving towards a continuance. John O'Reilly, do you have a comment?
No, not at this time. Not at this time. I don't know if Brian, if Attorney Wall needs to say anything.
No, I don't either, Mr. Chairman. I think that, we've put it out there. The abutters through council and Arlene Wilson have given us some things to think about. At this particular point in time, and given the hour, we would ask for a continuance, and Amy did suggest April 7th. I'm available that date. Mr. Riley, are you available that date?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Reed, are you available that date?
As far as I know, thank you.
Okay. Arlene?
Yeah.
Sounds like all the affected parties can make it that night, so it would be, we'd ask for a continuance until April 7th.
Okay, very good. I'll make the motion then that we move to continue the hearing for 5 C Street, map 7, parcel D22 until April 7th, 2021.
I'll second that, Brad.
All right, seconded by Ernie. All those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you all for your participation tonight, and we will see you on this hearing on April 7th.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you all. Good night. Okay. This moves us on to the order of conditions. If you want to take a break, Amy, or is there something else you want to put in at this point on the agenda?
No, I'm all set to keep going. If you folks are, we're in the home stretch here.
Yeah, okay. All right, then I guess we'll move on to order conditions. If you want to lead us through those, I appreciate it. Oh, you're still muted, Amy.
Sure. The first one is a draft order for 17 Bayview Road. If you recall, this was invasive removal, replanting, and creation of a path. They did get us a revised plan that showed a 4-foot wide path. And I would recommend approval. Let me open up the conditions just to make, in case you have any suggestions. But if you have any comments on the draft order, let me know.
Amy, I had a couple of comments. First, being at the heading, where you list the 3 elements to the plan, the invasive management protocol and the planting plan. Underneath that, you have dates. I think you're missing 2 of the dates.
Yes, I need to fill those back in. Sorry about that. I missed that.
The other comment I would have is just above general conditions, the paragraph above that. You mentioned general conditions 1 through 15. I would also say special conditions 1 through 7.
Okay.
Other than that, it looked fine to me. I saw no other changes that were needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other thoughts from commissioners?
Nothing else from me.
All right, that one's looking pretty clean. I'll give it just a minute more. I'm all set. Stan, you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right, Ken, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the, excuse me, order of conditions for 17 Bayview Road, map 7, parcel J6-2. Have a second, please.
Second.
All right, second by Mark. All those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
And myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. All right, on to the next one.
So this is 18 Captain Todd Way, draft order. I noticed on that first page again, as Ernie said for the previous one, I have to fill in some dates and scales. We were waiting for revised plans, which we did get. I just did not go back and type in the information, so I made a note to do that. And with that, do you have any comments on the special conditions?
No, for as much time as we put into this, seems pretty simple, actually. So I had no comments.
I know when I wrote it, I was like, only 10? Can I do better than that?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any comments on it.
I'm all set.
All right.
Good.
Amy, I like some of this wording, like number 14. Maybe that should be in a lot of other order of conditions. Any unforeseen problem occurs, let us know type of thing.
It is. It's always in there. That's a generic one, right? Number 14?
Okay, then I'm reading the wrong one and I'm thinking, this is really good. Usually read that one.
That's in everyone.
I was like, this is, I like it.
And something that I reiterate all the time at my pre-construction on-sites.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone's good on this one.
Okay.
John, you okay? All right.
Did we make a request for a particular grass outside of the 100?
No, they're probably going to do a micro clover, but we just said no fertilization, so they have to figure it out.
I thought we had requested it.
I don't think we can
Are you
tell them
talking
necessarily what
beyond
they
the 100
can't.
foot?
Yeah, we can't tell them what to plant. We can just tell them not to fertilize.
Yeah.
And I've given them examples of things that they wouldn't really need to fertilize and get some nicer semblance of a lawn.
I would say when everyone's ready, if somebody wants to make a motion on this.
I'll move to approve the order of conditions for 18 Captain Todd Way.
I'll second that.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Ernie seconded it, Brett.
Sorry, I missed that. Okay. All right, then all those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Stan, and myself, Brad Chase, aye. The motion carries. All right. And then I guess we have,
One cert. For Braddock Street, for beach maintenance, the permit's expired. They're looking to close it out. We already submitted new application, which is going to be on your next agenda. So there's no reason for you to keep this open. They can't do work under it. It's just sitting there on their deeds. So we did send them reminders that it was expiring and it expired. So unfortunately, there's nothing we could do about that. Have to refile. So I'd recommend issuance of a certificate of compliance for 4 Braddock.
okay. Well, unless there's any comments, we're going to see this one next meeting. So that's when the comments will come. So I will move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 4 Braddock Street beach maintenance. Have a second? All right,
Second.
seconded by John. Any discussion? I think we're fairly straightforward in this one. All right, then all those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
and myself, Brad Chase, aye. So the motion carries unanimously. All right.
Right. No
This one,
minutes.
Wasn't as onerous as I thought it was, Amy.
You did a very good job. You all did. I think we knew what was coming and tried to get information out there as quickly as possible. And thank you for the feedback to provide to applicants to help expedite things as well. So I just have a couple reminders, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
First, we had a work day at Texera Conservation Land this past Monday, and we have another one at Thompson's Field with AmeriCorps on Friday of this week. We're just going to be doing some more land management. So if a couple people have responded. If you would like to assist on Friday, you're more than welcome. And then Monday, the Board of Selectmen have us on the agenda, well, me on the agenda on your behalf for our budget, not for your warrant articles, for the budget for next year. I don't expect any issues. I did have to do some reductions, which I again did in expenditures, which is, it's debilitating, but we did not have to cut staff. At this point, I don't know how we could cut anymore. So I'm not anticipating a big issue with the Board of Selectmen. But if you would like me to send you our budgets over the past, if anybody wants to see them, what our budgets have been over the past couple of years, in case there is an issue and you want to support at least ratifying the proposed budget that I've put together, that would be very helpful. So that's Monday, this coming Monday evening. And
Did you keep your money for the plover monitors?
I've proposed to keep it, yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, and so you know we are hiring one for this year. So this year, this budget coming wouldn't go into effect until July of this year. But yeah, I did keep it. And then let's see, after that, we picked, we seem to that everybody can make it on March 31st to have an additional meeting to discuss the leasing of the Main Street bogs currently leased by Leo Kukunis. And I did mention that date to Leo, and he said he would be there, just to remind him. So that lease comes up in September. We talked about it extensively, fairly extensively last year. I asked Leo to put together an update of where he is with the cleanup. Also, has there been any more dialogue or anything with the tech school, because he was wanting to engage the tech school and maybe some agriculture out there. I want to see where that's going. Yeah, September will be here before we know it. So I think, we should start talking about this. So March 31st, 6:30 p.m. It's a 5 Wednesday month. So that was the least. I thought it should have its own night. That's all I got for you.
So Amy, speaking of plovers, is it too early for their plovers to be arriving? I
Yes.
saw 4 little birds skittering around right at the water's edge yesterday, I think, and I looked at them. But they look like plovers to me, but I'm not a birder, so
You were probably seeing sandpipers. They're basically the same size. They're coloring where they have color, and not white is a little darker. And they're approximately the same size. So it is, I mean, this would be crazy early for plovers. We're usually, Harwich's Red River birds are usually like the first to arrive in the whole state. And in the past 2 years, they've arrived on March 28th, past 2 years. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but highly unlikely. Most likely sandpipers.
Well, I have some lousy cell phone pictures. I'll send them to you anyway.
Well, I might have to go take a look anyways.
Okay. I saw them on the right side over just in front of the dune there on the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Most likely not plovers, but I can see how you'd be mistaken.
All right.
Amy, for the hearing on the 31st, can we put an agenda item to discuss management of the Bell's Neck Bogs conservation area as well?
Yes, I forgot to mention it, but I already put it in my notes for the 31st.
Yeah, my guess is that you've had no ability to work on the management plan, given the recent hearings have been just, packed. But I think if we're going to talk about one, lease area, we should probably talk about the other site and just, keep the thoughts moving on how we'd like to manage that. And really, a lot of the hard work falls back on you probably to, kind of edit that plan. But I think we should spend a few minutes discussing it.
Sure.
And it's timely too, because, the spring's coming up. Lots of people will be coming around, starting to use the site again.
On that note, Nikki and I are starting to spend the CPC funding that we got for 20 grand with the signage, the split rail fencing, the bollards, the gates, all of that. We did have to get revised quotes, which we have, and we are proceeding with purchasing, and DPW is lined up to do a lot of the work.
That's good. On the 31st, we should also talk about if we're going to move ahead with the evening closures of the gate. We talked about it last year. We made some progress, but we didn't go forward because it was a little bit difficult to manage that. But I think on the 31st, we should make a decision.
Yep. Got it.
Right. I can't believe we have time to think about what else there is to talk about.
Let's not take too much longer.
Yeah, I know. Did you say the minutes were not available to review?
No minutes. We haven't had time.
Okay, that's
We're
fine.
trying.
Okay. Any updates from other folks? I'm in that little window where I get past being hungry, so I'm not starving to death right now, but it is time to eat for me. So, well, we could entertain a motion to adjourn if there's no further comments.
So moved.
So seconded. All those in favor say aye, starting with Ernie.
Aye.
Carolyn.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Stan.
Aye.
Myself, Brad. Aye. Okay, we are officially adjourned, and I cannot believe we beat 10 o'clock given that agenda. That's pretty amazing. So, thank you so much, Amy.